All right. Howdy, y'all. Welcome to Liberty Libations number 117. My name is Jake Green, joined as usual by Stephen Hilton, Alden, Hardee, and Nick Ciesielski. Our special guest today is Patrick Naughton. Patrick, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing great. How y'all doing?
Doing awesome. Great, man. Appreciate you coming on the show. Can you intro yourself? Give people just your basic background and who you are.
Sure. So Patrick Naughton, originally from Hawaii, but since then I've lived, all over the country in the Army right now. 28 years total in the Army, and then I'm a author and historian on the side. And I have my first book coming out, which compares and contrasts my dad's time fighting in Vietnam with mine in Iraq, and then kind of that back and forth of both of our years at war and how his time at war influenced me to then join and so on.
Heck yeah. Well, we appreciate you being here. Do you have a drink tonight? Are you drinking?
Yeah, so I quit drinking like 4 years ago, but I couldn't show up empty-handed, and I thought we had some rum somewhere, but we didn't. All we had was this brandy. So that's what I'm drinking, but I'm making up for it in this little fancy cup. So
there we go.
Yeah.
There you go. Right. I love it. Steven, what are you drinking tonight, man?
The local stuff. So the Pearl and Pine hopped me up. I can't get enough of it, man.
All right. Alden, what you got?
I got a Guinness going on, leftover from some St. Patrick's, of course. So I've got Irish beer, but American whiskey, so I'll balance it out.
All right. I like it. Nick, you drinking?
Yeah, I've got this that I just bottled.
The mead.
Oh, heck yeah.
So, yeah. I started, it's actually, I guess, a sizer. It was used, instead of using water, I used apple juice. And then I let it sit on with dehydrated apples and cinnamon in it. So I know it's extremely cinnamony, but
it's going to be like very strong taste for sure.
It's been cooking. It's been cooking for, I think I started it in September.
Good Lord,
or
man.
October, maybe.
Okay.
Well, it was a 5-gallon run, so it took forever for it to run, and then between getting stuff and letting it then dehydrate, take the dehydrated stuff and let it all kind of go out of, and finally not being lazy and getting around to doing it. So
nice. Well, I'm drinking Ardbeg Wee Beastie in my brand new Texas A&M cup. If y'all didn't know, March Madness is happening right now. That is my favorite time of the year. There's a Liberty Libations bracket pool going on. If you didn't join it this year, you got to wait till next year. You can win $50 to the Peaceful Sea Network store. And it's already going extremely well for me and Steven. We're tied for 5th place right now. It's looking really, really good. Steven has some very bold picks.
Yes.
I was sitting in 5th not that long ago. I'm sitting in 5th.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So the 3 of us are tied for 5th, and Alden doesn't have a bracket probably.
So I'm tied for 1st or last?
We'll say 1st. You're probably smart to not.
I've lost the least so far.
There you go. Exactly.
I mean, at least the team you picked to win it all didn't lose in the first round, like Zane.
Patrick, do you get into March Madness at all?
No, not really. I have a 3-year-old, so I'm allowed like one hobby. And that's writing. So whatever the free time I get, that's all I can really do is fit in that one thing.
Yeah, that's totally understandable. Yeah. Well, let's I've got your book pulled up here. Born from War, A Soldier's Quest to Understand Vietnam, Iraq, and the Generational Impact of Conflict. Me and the rest of the guys have been reading some of this week. I have not gotten through the entire thing, sadly, but it's available for pre-order at the moment. So you were generous enough to send us a copy beforehand, digital copy. Can you just tell us a little bit about the book and how you, dadgum, why did it switch y'all? That was weird. And and like what it was that inspired you to write it?
Yeah. So, my dad, he fought in Vietnam. It was something he never talked about, or rarely ever talked about, but it was always something that was in the background growing up. When you're like a little kid, you kind of sneak around and dig through your parents' stuff and just for the fun of it. And so you would find, little pieces of military clothing, old medals and things like that. So it was kind of always there, but you really didn't know what it was. But that had a huge influence on me, as this boy growing up with this, combat veteran who served with great distinction in the Vietnam War. And so it was always there. So that really like influenced me to then want to join the Army and then one day, serve in my own war. And so that was really kind of the genesis of the book is, I've always enjoyed writing. So I started writing articles about 5 or 6 years ago. And I always wanted to do a book. And my dad, he still had all his letters that he wrote home from Vietnam and a diary that he kept while he was in Vietnam. So I thought, hey, this would probably make a really good book. So I tracked down all the guys that he served with, who I could find, and interviewed a lot of them. And then I, compared and contrast that and how his experience influenced me to then join, and then how I went off to my own war in Iraq. And it's kind of like a back and forth in that. And then throughout the whole book, it also has, larger pictures of comparisons and similarities between the two conflicts, the same mistakes that we made in both wars, Vietnam and Iraq, Afghanistan, global wars on terrorism. So kind of all that packaged up together. Plus, it's kind of a human interest story too. Talks about all the influences, not just on the generations who serve, but those families who serve. 50, 60 years ago, these people who were killed in Vietnam, I mean, their families are still around. That seat at the dinner table is still empty, but we kind of forget about it. But that's basically kind of the genesis of the whole book.
Okay. One thing you mentioned in there was the fact that your dad didn't really talk about his time in Vietnam, and I've done a lot of work with veterans, currently in production on a documentary with veterans, and one thing I have noticed is that older generation didn't talk at all, and the younger generation really tries to. There seems to be a very stark contrast in the differences just between 20 years apart. Do you have any thoughts on why that would be the case and why it's such a change now?
Yeah, the older generation, I think they would talk about it, but they would keep it within their little sphere. So, they were big on joining, like, the Veterans of the Foreign Wars, American Legion, all those types of organizations that my generation is not so much interested in. And so, you have that lapse of membership, if you will, between the two generations. So they were kind of very much, in my opinion, focused on each other, supporting each other. Whereas, my generation now, we're kind of grown. We were raised on this platform or this theater stage, if you will, with all the social media and all those types of things. So when we come back from our own conflicts, our first instinct is to jump right back into that and share our experience, whether people want to hear it or not. So I think that's kind of the biggest difference, is just the way that we were raised,
Yeah. That tracks for me. One thing that stood out to me at the very beginning of the book was you talking about the difference between the war in Vietnam, where it was a bunch of people who were drafted, versus the war now, and where it's people who volunteer, and the kind of the casualties in both wars. Can you talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, it kind of gets after that limited war obsession that America and the West seems to have now. We want to put the most limited amount of effort into it to get the most maximum effect. And that just doesn't work. It didn't work in Vietnam, didn't work in Iraq and Afghanistan. And so in Vietnam, you had this draft army. So you had this massive army that was sent over there, 500,000 at one point. So they weren't as casualty adverse as we are now, with this volunteer army. We could not, storm the beaches of Normandy with a volunteer army, because we would be decimated very quickly, and it'd be very hard to regenerate that force. But I will say, for the biggest difference, people like to, kind of disparage today's generation of youth, and they say that, oh, they would never be able to do what we did in World War II, or even what we did in Vietnam. But I would challenge that, because everybody who joined the military after September 11th knew that they were going to war, and they there was no question of it. They knew that if I join right now, I'm going to war, 100% guarantee, and they all volunteered. And so I would say that that medal, that American medal, is still there. I think it very much is still there. Maybe not quite the amount that it was in World War II, but I would challenge anybody who kind of disparages today's younger generation to consider that.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's something. I think people tend to disparage the younger generation in that way, because like the small minority of them are posting constantly on TikTok and whining about everything and appearing as though kind of representing and misrepresenting the entire generation with the crap they post online. And yeah, I completely agree with you. I think Americans still have in the younger generation, but still completely not get run over by, another country. Stephen, do you have any questions for Patrick?
Well, yeah, I mean, I was skimming through it, past couple of days. I've got into chapter 5. I haven't been able to read the whole thing because, again, I have kids as well. So what time I have is very precious. So I was reading through there, and I like the tone. It's kind of we're getting to know you, psychologically, but showing your serious side, and you're kind of making jokes here and there. About what used to be called Fort Benning, the one size fits all shoes. I enjoyed reading that because that's it kind of harkens back to. I could tell that you're from a military family. I am as well. My grandfather was 101st Airborne, World War II. Actually, both my grandfathers were. They probably met each other over there. Honestly, I was just doing the math on that recently. One of them was a combat medic.
Okay.
In Patton's army, and then the other one was a tank operator.
Okay.
And that was my mom's dad. He drove tanks, and he was left for dead, actually. They sent the letter home that his tank was flipped over and blown up. Of course, he crawled out of it. He shows back up at his camp like 2 weeks later, and like, what the hell are you doing here? He's like, I don't know. So then they send him home 3 weeks after his letter gets there saying he's dead, and he was very much not dead after that, and they did not want to let him come back after that. They're like, we've already declared you dead once. You're not going to go back. So it's cool reading the cultural differences of growing up in Hawaii. I'm going to mispronounce there was a slang word they called you, the white boys on the island.
Yeah, howlies.
There you go.
Yeah.
So it's cool, noticing the cultural differences of when your dad was growing up, when you were coming up, and it's pretty cool seeing that flash forward of generations. But the service, the dedication, it's all still there. Because talking about your training, wading through the swamp at Fort Benning with a broken foot, holy crap. This generation's soft. No, it's not. Just because we have technology doesn't make us soft, man. The dedication's still there, like you're saying.
Yes, sir.
Everybody's still signing up.
Yeah. I do. I love the comparison. So, like, what are some of the things that are still the same between those two generations as far as serving in the military from your experience?
Sure. Yeah. So, getting back to Stephen's comment, so it's back to Fort Benning again. If you didn't know that, so it's changed again. So the book's already outdated, but it hasn't even come out yet. But yeah, it's funny because in all the research that I do in all the articles I did about the military, and then now the book, I'm always struck by how similar the experiences are. Whether you were in World War I, even going back to the American Civil War, I did some stuff on up until Vietnam, until now. Like there's still such a timeless experience about joining the military, even though technology changes and the training changes and the uniforms and the weapons and things like that. There's still very much that basic discipline, of a drill sergeant screaming in your face and breaking you down and building you back up, and then forming teams and things like that. And then that common experience of deploying overseas and then coming back and being shocked by that. So there's so many, it's so similar, it's like I said, it's just the uniforms and the weapons and things like that change. But that ultimate core human experience, if you will, when you join the military and then go off to fight somewhere is so similar, and it just doesn't change.
There's the perspective, like, from the soldier, like, and that experience being similar. And from what I was reading, you were also kind of like tying like political similarities across the different times and like making similar mistakes. And at one point, you even highlighted a politician criticizing another politician and then them getting in the position later. This was Biden, and making their own blunders and everything. And so like everyone's like, even one person just across time will take on just this rotational role of like criticizing someone else and then maybe even getting into the seat themselves and making their own mistake there, which was interesting.
Yeah, no. So you broke up a little bit. I'm not sure if everybody heard that.
Oh,
I think everybody, it may be your connection.
Yeah, it looked like Yeah, on our
Okay.
side, you got jittery.
Yeah,
there.
Patrick, just quickly log out, log back in, and we'll wait for just a second.
All right. I think I'm good now, though. Am I coming across good?
I hear you now. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no,
Okay.
I can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. No, to get off to Alden's point, yeah, right about that. It's called the Ghost of Vietnam or the Ghoul of Vietnam or whatever you want to call it. And I think now it's going to be the Ghost of GWAT, the Global War on Terrorism, and it's just going to be compounded onto Vietnam. But yeah, you have this successive generation of politicians, if you will, attacking each other over the mistakes of Vietnam or the mistakes that they're about to make in whatever policy that they're gonna implement. Like, oh, you're gonna get us back into Vietnam. And then turns right around, and it's used against them in the next administration that they're making the exact same mistakes and so on. So, yeah, and so I think the Ghost of Vietnam, it followed us all the way, and I think it would still be following us, except now I think it's going to be replaced by the Ghost of GWAT in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Which on principle is the same thing, just colloquially, like just called a new thing, just like so
new
it's
thing,
more fresh, basically. But it's basically built on the
it's been
same.
Refreshed, yeah.
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 Only this time with the Middle East, it's one that we willingly got into. The French didn't drag us into this one by screwing it up.
Yeah. And the Middle East, I mean, it's obviously still going on today. I mean, we're still in Iraq. We're not in Afghanistan anymore, but we still have over the horizon, and we're still monitoring it and so on. But we're still in Iraq. We're still in Syria. We're still in the Middle East. What's going on right now with Israel and Hamas and so on. So that whole region, it's going to be around for, I think, for all of us until we die, and probably for our children as well. It's probably not going to get solved by then, but it's a, I guess, fascinating quagmire that we're probably never going to be able to get out of.
Or if we do, it'll just move south. I was reading today that Sudan is holding up the global gum acacia supply, and that's threatening Coke and Pepsi because that's the primary ingredient for soda.
Yeah.
What is the primary ingredient for soda?
Gum acacia or gum
Arabic. I don't know how to
Arabic.
pronounce it. I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, gum Arabic from the acacia tree.
Yeah.
It's from Sudan.
Yeah.
Oh, I had no freaking clue.
Yeah.
Yeah. They use it in a lot of stuff. There's all kinds. It's like a base, kind of like a corn syrup for like a whole bunch of different things.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if Coke and Pepsi go under, I really couldn't care less. So, yeah.
Well, but I mean, if you piss them off,
Okay, that's fair.
somebody's about to get occupied.
I mean, Pepsi had a battleship at one point, didn't they?
What?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that's a weird little piece of history.
They had a fighter jet that they raffled off.
Well, there was that. We've covered that before, but
that, yeah.
I believe there were debts owed and to Pepsi from, was it Russia or something? They paid them with like a battleship.
What?
Wow.
I've never heard that one. I have to look into that.
Yeah.
There was something. I think it was Pepsi dealing with a ship. They had their own naval ship at one point.
The episode where we don't have a producer who could look this stuff up in the background. That got
Yeah.
So Patrick, what I have read from your book, and I've noticed the title was deliberate. Born from war, not born for war, like some politicians would have us believe. So.
Yeah. It goes back to that generational influence. My father, 10 years after he's back from the war, he had me, and then it was always kind of there in the background. When we were little kids, we were running around in the woods, acting like we were fighting the Viet Cong. So it's born from war. That's kind of what the title is. I was born from his experience, if you will, which then influenced me to then want to join the military as well, which probably will want to influence my son. I mean, who knows,
Yeah, I was actually the y'all like preparing for war like in Hawaii and your father taking you out into the jungle and doing drills and stuff there. That was super interesting to me because like my family is not a military family, but me and my brother would like young boys would go off into the woods and act like we were in war. So like what were the kinds of things that y'all did growing up that your father would teach you?
Yeah, I lost you guys for a second. I may have to log out and come back in.
Yeah. Log out and come back in. We'll be right here.
There we go. Cool guy so far. I'm enjoying this.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. Just gonna kick him from the
Yeah,
stage.
I unfortunately didn't get as far into reading it as I had hoped, but
I didn't either, but I read
that's
enough.
what happens.
Yeah,
You know,
it is what happens. And
because
I
like
actually
last
like
night
the-
I was, yeah, last night I got on. I had to do another show for a thing, and then I laid down for a second afterwards, and then I fell asleep. And it was like 9:30. I woke up at 2:30 in the morning, and I'm like, all right, gotta go and get back to bed. So
yeah,
my whole
laid
evening
down
of
for a
stuff that I
second and-
needed to do
exactly.
just got wiped out there.
Y'all, I want everybody to know that Texas A&M is currently at halftime, and we're up 40-29. Gig 'em Aggies.
Where did that have
Zach
them?
Zach messaged and on the Discord about 5 minutes before I was going to message him to ask him to host the show again this week.
Yeah.
I wanted to watch the Aggies play. I have it on right above the camera, so it's still on in the background. Yeah, I do find all this incredibly interesting, especially him being born into a military family and just the similarities between his dad and himself it's very intriguing, and how it like history doesn't repeat, it rhymes, and just seeing in action is very interesting to me. All right, Patrick, you're back.
Right.
There we
Sorry
go.
about
He's
that.
back.
I don't know what happened. I'm on my hotspot now on my phone. It's always the way it works, right? Like it works perfectly until you actually need it.
So you need
Yeah,
it.
absolutely.
Yep.
That's how printers work too.
Yeah. You're not the first guest for that to happen too. So don't worry about it.
Yeah, but I'm in the Army. What the hell, man?
But yeah, I get. Did you hear my question at all before?
Yeah, something about my us playing war in the woods.
Yeah, I just want to know like how that would go with you and your father, because like my dad wouldn't do that, but me and my brother would do that with each other.
Yeah.
So I was wondering like what kind of things y'all would do, and was it more like training or more just for fun and that kind of thing?
Yeah, no, it was I mean, it was not encouraged by my father. So he only really came with us a couple times, and it was my friends and I, and we were just fascinated that he was a Vietnam veteran, and there was some others in our neighborhood who were Vietnam veterans and World War II veterans. And so we felt this need that, we had to go be in the Army too, and we'd be running around in the woods. Sometimes we would ambush our neighbors when they were walking down the street, things like that. So it was definitely not really totally encouraged by him. After Vietnam, he swore off that he would never hold a weapon ever again. So we never even had firearms around their house or anything. So there was that interesting part of it. It was that it was, always an influence, but at the same time, there was this, strange influence that I didn't really know about, because watching things like Rambo and all these other corny movies, you thought all these gung-ho guys were, here's my dad who, was in the 82nd Airborne and it's like, I don't want to ever touch a weapon again. It was very confusing, for a kid. You don't really understand that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I grew up, in the 90s. I was born in 85. So, coming up in the 90s was, Desert Storm.
Right.
And my uncle flew Apaches in Desert Storm. And I had Desert Storm trading cards. So other kids in the neighborhood are, trading baseball cards and stuff like that. And I've got my Desert Storm cards. And, I've talked about it before too. I think General Schwarzkopf was probably like the last real general that we had. He was like, he didn't play politics. They put a microphone in front of us. What's your strategy for this? I'm going to kill more of them than they do of us. See you later.
Right. Yeah. I write about that in the book, because you have those senior Vietnam veterans are kind of at the tail end, or at the beginning of GWAT. Schwarzkopf was already kind of done, but like Colin Powell, those guys, they were Vietnam veterans. And so, Colin Powell, I mean, it's going to be interesting how history judges him, right? A Vietnam veteran, made multiple statements that he wasn't going to get us into like another Vietnam, and then his role, that he assumed at the beginning of the war and so on, and that political role he took. So it's going to be interesting to see how kind of history, remembers him and so on.
I think he said that his biggest regret was actually the speech that he gave about the weapons of mass destruction, and that he was kind of strong-armed into the position of, because he was such a trusted person in his role, that it carried a lot of weight to the American public when he said it. And I think he felt like he was used in that.
I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah. I mean, that's my read from it. And when I heard years later that he regretted it, I was like, well, it's just even more confirming that he was kind of just put into that spot, I think. But
so, and this is a libertarian podcast, so I do have to ask, because the specter of communism, it was a central theme,
right.
at least in the beginning of the book and all that. And so, how do you feel now that you have a family with multiple generations who have served? Thank you, by the way, to fight communism, and now we have major political groups here domestically saying it's probably a good idea after all.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is challenging, the whole concept, because you look at, I mean, World War II, the Nazis, right? They're bad, awesome, kicked their butt. Everybody knows that was the right thing to do. And then you come later and you have Korea, we're fighting communism. Then you have Vietnam, we're fighting communism. And now, one of our biggest allies in Asia is Vietnam. So you look at all those lives who were lost, was it, I mean, you have to ask yourself, and you don't want to ask yourself, but you have to ask yourself, was it worth it? And even looking at Iraq and Afghanistan, you could look at Afghanistan. Again, this is just my personal opinion. You can look at Afghanistan and say, hey, we absolutely had to go in to stop that ability for them to attack the homeland. But then after that, what the heck were we doing? And then in Iraq, I mean, we kind of touched on it there a second ago about Colin Powell. I was in Iraq, and even I question, why was I there? What were we doing? What were we trying to achieve? So I think that's, the ageless question, if you will. And then as far as, communism on the rise now, it's not so, I guess, for me, our generation, communism is still kind of like, kill a commie for mommy. It doesn't really like register with us like how it did for my dad's generation and so on. So we don't really see it as much of a threat. We see it more of kind of like a fringe ideology, except for like even like China and so on. Now they're like capitalist communists, So it doesn't carry that same weight, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but the World War II roots are still here as well, because you got Saddam Hussein's Ba'ath Party was basically birthed by the Nazis, and then the Mujahideen that we radicalized to rebuff the communists out of Afghanistan. There's some communist roots to some of them as well. So it's just a similar script, I guess, and just just a slightly different stage. It's a different part of the world, but it's kind of the same theme repeating over and over, and it kind of makes you wonder how much of this is deliberate, how much of this is orchestrated.
Yeah, I don't know. So I work for the government, and I love an awesome conspiracy theory just as much as the next guy. But I will say that working for the government and being in the government as long as I have, and all the different roles that I've held, that we are just not that competent to be able to to pull off large conspiracies and things like that, and hold secrets of aliens in Area 51 and all that. Like, we're just not that efficient at doing that type of stuff. And so I don't know. I kind of like the JFK files. I mean, I'm interested to see what comes out of all that, the ones that are getting released right now. If anything, I've seen a lot of things from historians saying, hey, it's all the same stuff. It's just been, one document is redacted here, but the other document says the same thing that's not redacted.
And already
so it's be the same.
We've been told that we're only getting a fraction of the documents, and it's like, oh, they're not redacted. It's like, yeah, but they're the less important documents, so of course you're not redacting.
Also, I can give you guys a spoiler on that. I mean, John Greenwald with the blackvault.com, he's already run it through AI.
Oh yeah,
and
nice.
Spoiler alert, it's Lee Harvey Oswald.
Yeah. I love JFK, the conspiracy, I love that kind of stuff. And then when I went to when I was in Dallas actually with the Army, when I went and stood in the was the 6th floor or whatever it was and looked out the window, I was like, oh my God, that's the easiest shot in the world. Like, what's all the conspiracies talking about? Like, that's such an easy shot. So yeah. But yeah, still interested to see what else people kind of pull out from that.
Also, my whole thing with the JFK files is like, do you think there's going to be just a page in there that says, yeah, the CIA did it? Like, what are we?
Yeah, right.
Are they going? Did they save pieces of paper that are going to prove that JFK was killed by? Like, no.
No, they burned the good stuff.
I've always wondered how much they
just
save of things that
write
are
it
that
down.
damning anyway. Yeah.
It just doesn't seem like it's going to be fruitful at all. Same with like the Epstein files and all these things. Like,
we're never going to get the real Epstein.
We're never going to get anything real out of any of these files.
Well, I mean, do you really think Epstein took selfies with everybody before they took off on the plane? Like, hey guys, it's about to be another lit party. Look at everybody on this one.
Hold up a newspaper for this photo. Like,
no.
Yeah, all these people disappointed in the JFK file so far. I'm just like, what did you expect? Like, that was you're never gonna get what you wanted.
I have a theory of what I think the cover up was, and I have no knowledge of this at all. I'm just totally me making it up. But I think that Oswald was probably CI for the FBI, and was probably more involved talking with them than they let on. And that's kind of the cover up, is that they were embarrassed that, hey, we were talking to this guy so frequently, because how could they not have been monitoring him? I mean, with his experience going to Russia and then coming back, and then, so I feel like maybe he was a little bit more of a CI for them than they are willing to let on. That's kind of the only theory I have.
They were, I think some of those documents were mentioning, and of course I haven't read them because there's so much there and I've been busy, but some of those documents were enlightening a little bit about Oswald's time in Mexico, Mexico City, meeting with some, I guess, some known Soviets or something. So, that's something to keep in mind. Although,
but it does also mention that libertarian ideals were part of a Cuban plot to subvert the system over here.
Yeah, just basic freedom and personal liberty is a.
You got to watch out for that.
Yeah. Those John Birch people, they want to tear the country down. I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
Oh man, Patrick, working with veterans, I've noticed that many of them become either self-proclaimed historians or actual historians.
Yeah.
And just generally speaking, old white guys in general kind of do that. What do you think do you think being in the military is like a pipeline into becoming a historian, or do you think just people who are interested in history get involved with the military?
Yeah, I think, as part of our, once you join the military, I mean, it's a profession, right? So you're kind of indoctrinated into that history immediately from basic training. I mean, everything from the patch you wear to the ceremonies and drill and ceremony that you're doing and so on. So it's really infused, from the very beginning. Stephen, you mentioned the 101st Airborne. I mean, you just say that word, everybody knows who that is. And when you're part of that unit, that history is just drilled into you. So I think it just becomes natural. And then plus, once you get higher up in rank, as part of your professional military education, history is a big thing that you have to study, past campaigns and what lessons can you learn from them and so on. So I think it's really just comes with it, and you just start to enjoy it. And, me, I'm well on my way to becoming an old white guy, and I'm definitely going to keep doing history. That's for sure.
Nice. Yeah. No, I appreciate that for sure. I had another question and now it just slipped my mind.
I had a question while you were thinking about it.
Go ahead, Alden.
So you said that your dad didn't talk about Vietnam that much, but I think it was in the book. You were talking about your dad. Correct me if I'm reading a spot from a different person. I was like speed reading, but where like you're having dinner and he just just kind of gazes off and just like blurts out that he watched someone step on a mine one time and pieces of them. He saw pieces fly in the air and then just like goes back to his potatoes or whatever. Just like you get these weird little glimpses and just the behind the scenes kind of look. And like when you said that he didn't talk about it a lot, but that it was like a background item all the time growing up with him, of course, and that it still influenced you. Did hearing something like that and something, how old were you, first of all, in that, when you were describing this?
Yeah, that was kind of, he would never, you could never go and talk to him and say, hey, can you tell me about this, about Vietnam? There was never that open conversation, but every so often something like that would pop out. And, I introed that in the book, and that was probably, I think I was about 12 or 13.
Okay.
And there's a couple of little things like that would keep happening throughout my life. Like, I had a little pellet gun and, I went out and shot and I came back in and I was like, Dad, I missed this can or whatever. And then he's like, oh yeah, one time all four of us were shooting at a VC 10 feet away and we missed them. And then he just went back to reading his book. And it's just like, wait, what?
Yeah.
You're just totally blown away by that as a kid. You just kind of it gets dumped on you and then you don't even know what to do with it. So those were the kind of little things that were always there. And then, he had, his old uniform pieces of uniform were tucked away in various places in the closet. And he had his awards. He had like a Bronze Star with V for Valor. Those were tucked away in between old books. I would find those and read those. And so that was always kind of there. And then every so often, somebody would pop up, that he was in the Army with, that was coming through Hawaii, maybe on a vacation or something. And they would, go off into the corner and kind of whisper to each other for a couple hours old memories, come back with their eyes a little wet, things like that. So
Mhm.
it was never in your face, but it was always something there, and you never quite. Plus, he was always reading Vietnam books. All these Vietnam books were always laying around, other people's memoirs and stuff.
Yeah.
And so there was kind of something that was always there, but you really didn't know what it meant, when you're still a young child.
Do you think that like him constantly reading about the war that he was involved in and memoirs from like fellow soldiers and things like that, do you think that was maybe his way of trying to like figure it out and cope with it in a way?
Yeah, I do. I found the letter that he had written to his team leader, like 12 years after the war. And it's just a small little sentence in the letter, and it just says something like, I've got the Vietnam bug, and I can't stop reading and researching everything I can about the war. And so I think it was, an attempt to kind of, I guess, maybe rationalize or come to terms, what he saw and what he did there. And I don't have that bug yet for Iraq and Afghanistan, even though I did write a book. I still am like, when there's like documentaries about 9/11 and things like that, I just still can't bring myself to watch them. I'm just, I'm still not really there yet, I guess.
So in this way, you're pretty different than your dad in terms of like, he really got wrapped up in it and wanted to, like, I think the word that you said, rationalize, makes a lot of sense, like, or justify even potentially,
right.
Make sense of all the terrible things that he did, I'm sure, see. And you have been not as like obsessively sort of following in that same footpath there. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
That's like a difference.
Yeah, not yet, and I don't know if I will. Maybe, maybe as I get a little bit older, and GWAT kind of, fades to the background for everybody in society as a whole, maybe I will, start digging into it more. I don't know.
Yeah, Stephen,
So was your dad drafted, or did he?
I was wondering that too.
Yeah, no. So he volunteered. So he was an
Interesting.
officer. Yeah, he volunteered, and then he got an education delay, so he finished his degree, and then once that was over, the Army was like, "Here we go, bro!" Like, you thought you were getting away, and so he went to Fort Benning, and then he was in the 82nd Airborne in Vietnam, and then he spent 6 months with the 82nd. Then they redeployed, and then he became an advisor to the South Vietnamese Army for the rest of his time in Vietnam. And he actually saw way more combat advising the South Vietnamese than he did when he was with the 82nd Airborne.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did your dad know Robert Ciesielski by any chance?
No, I didn't run across that name. No.
Okay. He's the big investment guru, the rich dad.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, I know. I was like, where do I know that?
No, because he was Marine Corps. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was my grandpa was in Vietnam, and he was Marines, and he had a very similar, like, where just like randomly one day he would just blurt out some story, but then he didn't give much if you asked, but if he was in the mood to just tell a thing that just like sort of something reminded him of a thing, and he would just come out and say that, like, at left field, very much just like, oh yeah, one time I watched a guy got shot his jaw right off or whatever, and then you're like, what? And then he could just go back to doing whatever he was doing. Like, it was just like these little just fizzles of thought would just kind of bubble up, and you would just get these, but they were on his terms. Like, you couldn't like engage in a conversation about something, but and ask him a question. He would give you a very like short, vague answer, but if he was in the mood to kind of say a certain thing that was on his mind, he would share it.
Yeah. Isn't that fascinating?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All like my 5 best friends from high school, they all immediately enlisted. I mean, like, we hung out for like the summer after high school, and then they're like, I gotta go, man, I gotta go. And they went in, did multiple tours. All of them did 3-4 tours. The first 2, they were cool. Something happened on the 3rd round for all of them. They came back, and they were, there's like a little piece of them missing. All the bars we would hang out at, like, they couldn't, they would come with us, but they'd sit in the back corner where they could see the front door.
Yeah.
My grandpa would always need to see the door. That's for sure.
Nobody was behind them.
Yeah, I still do that. Yeah.
I learned that from him. Yeah. And I do it now, and I wasn't even in service or anything.
I do it too. You're taught that in like concealed carry courses and stuff.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
Well, you don't want somebody to come up behind you and whack you, right? When your doors, your back is to the door. But there's this fascination, right, for young men and young women really starting to grow with war and wanting to go experience it for some reason. And that's another timeless thing you see from every generation.
Mm.
And I don't know where that comes from.
I don't either. I've
I mean,
wondered
we
that
have
because
it
I
kept
had
alive
that
in-
for a little while. And that was the question I was going to ask you earlier. You had mentioned in the book that your life was probably going down a not so great direction during high school. Mine as well. I went to jail pretty quickly after high school, and what was it that made you blurt out in that classroom like
fuck you and joining the army?
Yeah.
like, what was it? Was it just like you being antagonistic, or was it something that you had actually thought of and wanted to
do? Again, it goes back to that influence, right? I mean, growing up when I was younger, until I kind of started getting in trouble, it was always, I'm going to join the army. When you're in elementary and they're like, oh, draw yourself in your future profession, I was always drawing myself joining the army. And so then when I was that teenager and that teacher was like, what are you going to do with your life? I'm like, F you, I'm going to join the army, because it's always in the back of my head. And had she not, called the recruiter and had them meet me after school, I don't know if she hadn't given me that push, I don't know if I would have done it. And, I write about it in the book, but I have this kind of reoccurring nightmare that one day I wake up and I'm in a jail cell, and everything that I've done for, the past couple decades was all a dream.
That feels like a wild, like, parallel universe thing or something.
Yeah.
Man. That's crazy.
Yeah,
Because it hinged on a teacher calling a recruiter after you just told them fuck you, and they still were like, all right, let's set this kid's future up. That's kind of a big move, actually, to put
That is
your
the
own ego aside
ballsiest
for that.
move by a teacher that I've ever heard, I think.
I don't even know if that's legal. Can a teacher even set you up with a recruiter?
I don't know.
I doubt it.
Isn't that something you have to start? So I don't even know if that was
no
something
idea.
she was supposed to do, but I'm glad she did it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Maybe Hawaii has different rules. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's a wild one. I can't imagine the lawsuit that might come from that in today's world. Like that would be a problem, I think.
Oh well, I mean, nowadays they don't even want recruiters in the schools, right?
Yeah.
That's an interesting one.
It's funny to think about the concept of the way that you sort of set about joining too, which almost feels like it came from rebellion a little bit, which is interesting because I feel like rebellion is why I didn't join the military. You know what I mean? It's a weird thing where you can rebel and join the army, or you can rebel and say fuck the army or whatever. Whatever you think. I went to fucking art school, so I just lived a different life, and that's okay. But it's just how is your when you got to the army. And you had to go through all of the it's very disciplined, a lot of the trainings and stuff of the army. Did you adjust quickly to that? Or because to me that would be the hardest part, would be the authority and things like that. Now I probably could use the discipline, but it's the authority is the problem,
I'll come over and discipline you, Alden.
Yeah, you can be my boot camp instructor.
No, it's interesting how quickly human beings can adapt to a situation and it becomes normal. Again, I joined the infantry when I first joined, because that's what my dad was, and plus I barely passed the ASVAB test, but besides that, that's what my dad was, so that's what I was going to be. And then once you get to basic training, I mean, they do a very good job of breaking you down very quickly. They shave your head, throw you in a uniform right away, instill that discipline, drill sergeant screaming at you, very structured days. You're literally given exact times of when you're going to go and eat, when you're done eating, when you're going to go do this, when you're going to go do that, when you're going to go to bed. And it becomes very normal very quickly, and you just get you get used to it. And then it just becomes, you almost kind of crave, at least I did. I think that's something I was missing probably, because my dad raised us alone. My mom, they divorced. So it was probably that discipline, that structure that I was probably secretly craving that I didn't even know that I needed. So, again, the military is not for everybody, obviously, but you'd be surprised how, I guess, quickly you can fall into it and embrace it, if you will.
No, that makes sense to me. I've found that I been like a weird ADHD creative kind of artsy person my whole life, and I was like, I don't want structure. And then like as an adult I've realized like, oh my god, I need structure in my life. Like I am in absolute chaos, and I have since created structure for myself to the point of I have like 38 alarms on my phone like for different times to do things in the day. And it's just I went the other way on it just because I learned from myself that a certain amount of structure. Also, even learning from some of my own favorite artists and them saying you need the structure to give yourself the time to be disciplined to create. If you just give yourself the freedom to do anything, a lot of times we just fuck off and do childish bullshit that does nothing fruitful, and we need to like kind of like parent ourselves a little bit. And I didn't have that external sort of input, like from something like the military or strict parents or whatever. And so I've learned by effing up my whole life that I'm like, no, I think I need this. And I had to create it for myself. So like I said, the authority would have been just like a problem for me. Cause like when someone tells me to do a thing, I'm like, like that. But I think it could have been good for me in general to learn earlier in life that discipline and structure are beneficial. And maybe I should have done like, at least like, I don't know, MMA or some kind of thing that's just
I wish the military did a better job of attracting creative people because there's a stereotype that the military doesn't want creative artists, deep thinkers, and that's just not the case.
They're good strategizers.
They really are. Those type of people can really look at problems from a different perspective, and so I wish we kind of did a better job of breaking that stereotype a little bit.
That was one of my biggest issues actually. 'Cause there was a moment, or almost a full year, where I was like gearing up to join.
Really?
Nice.
Yeah, it was after I got out of jail.
Oh yeah.
And one of the things that really turned me off was exactly that. Like it didn't seem like I could at all think for myself or come up with any creative ways to do anything. And like that's how my brain works is creating or having creative solutions to problems. And that was one of the things that ultimately that and my natural disdain for authority that led me to not join in the end. So yeah, I think that would be what do you think it is about the military that gets that like if they do crave that creative mind, why does it seem so difficult for them to attract those people?
The movies and so on, they kind of depict soldiers as kind of mindless machines, if you will. And so I mean, there's Full Metal Jacket. You ever seen Full Metal Jacket?
Oh my god!
Yeah. And there's a scene in that movie where they're like, the Marines do not want. I can't even remember what it was, but they don't want mindless people. They want people who can think. And that's really true. I think it's just the movies they portray military in that way. And so our recruiting efforts probably don't do as good a job as we should, or we don't go to the places where creative people are and try to recruit from there. And we kind of tend to really target the South, if you will, the Southern United States and places with rural areas and so on.
SCAD's in the South, but good luck with that. Yeah.
Well, but the stereotype too is so many of the creative types are hopelessly on drugs.
Yeah.
And you got
to hopefully on drugs.
There you go. But you got to get them off the drugs. And what I'm hearing nowadays too, and this is an upcoming problem is. If you've been on like Adderall or Ritalin or anything,
dude, they give that to fighter pilots, man. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
they give it
after you're in. But if
I know.
Yeah, if they put you on it when you're 12 and you're trying to enlist at 23,
right?
Yeah,
you're gonna have a problem going through basic because they're not gonna give it to you.
Yeah, it's it's not as easy to join as you think. Like my dad's day in Vietnam. I mean, they were taking anybody, right? They were dropping high school scores, high school scores, dropouts, all those things. They were wavering, all that stuff. I mean, now you have to be physically fit. You have to be drug free, not only illegal drugs, but certain legal drugs and so on too. So there's a whole a whole number of things that you have to match to be able to join now, and so it is a lot more difficult than it used to be.
That you can't have flat feet?
No, I have flat feet.
Because I got the flattest feet in the world.
Yeah,
flat feet gets you to you.
Yeah, so I grew up I grew up not wearing shoes until I was like 6 years old in Hawaii.
I was in
so-
Florida, so I was the same thing.
Yeah.
Barefoot or
So my feet are
flip-flops
like
or-
this, and they're like
Yeah.
flat. You know? Yeah.
My
Or-
footprint in the
yeah.
sand instead of the arch like going in, it like
Yeah.
bows out. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I write about that in the book, how none of the boots would fit me and how it really messed me up in basic
Yeah.
training and so on.
You need that like double wide shoe
Yeah,
or whatever.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah, that's all I wear now is the
Yeah, I wear wides.
massively
Yeah.
wide toe box. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, the clown shoe. Like, yeah.
All right,
Or-
so Patrick, maybe you can dispel this myth. I've heard some rumors recently of some branches doing rifle quals on yoga mats these days.
Oh, I haven't heard that. I haven't seen anything like that. No, I will say that, the Army or the military really is re-examining physical fitness, which is really awesome.
Mhm.
I mean, when I was in basic training and even when I was an enlisted soldier, I mean, they would make you do things like duck walk around, duck walk like 50, 100 meters. And that's just like the worst thing for your knees.
That's terrible.
And, so now they're starting to look at that type of stuff and say, yeah, okay, we have to be hard. We got to toughen our bodies, but we got to do it in a smart way. Because
Yeah.
if we're duck walking everybody, they're only going to last a couple of years. Whereas if we're doing smart physical training, they're going to last
Yeah.
10, 15 years. So
That's way
that's
better.
really changing. That's really changing.
Yeah,
don't-
good.
Don't be
I
David
remember-
Goggins, Don't be
Yeah.
Cameron Haynes, where you're not going to have knees in the next 10 years.
Right.
Exactly. I remember my brother telling me about this because he was, he was in the Marine Corps, and what was it? He was 03 to 09. He was in there.
Mhm.
I think maybe 2010. And he was really impressed with the South Korean ROK Marines. He
Those
said,
guys are tough. Yeah.
he said when they showed up, they were
Mhm.
you shut up and you let them do what they wanted to do.
Yeah. Yeah, those are tough guys. There's the Filipino Rangers. Those guys are tough.
Mm,
Those are really, really tough guys there too.
Interesting.
So we got a few minutes left in the first hour. I want to talk about your writing. There are a lot of people who have similar experiences to what you've had, and very few of them are, put it in a book. So like, what was it? Were you just naturally did you always like to write, or how did like the book come about?
Yeah, I'd always, I've always enjoyed writing, and so, like I said, like 5-6 years ago, I started doing articles, and if you had read my first articles, you'd be just as horrified by them as I am. But so I enjoyed it. It was something I liked doing, and then I've always wanted to write a book, and so it was a personal goal, and so I did it. And again, going back to there's some haters out there right now who are like, oh fuck, man, I was Delta Force, Navy SEAL, and this and that, and why's your book out? And I'm like, well, go write a book, man. Like,
Yeah.
well,
This
it's like,
goes
well,
back
I'm
to
really
the
busy. Well, I'm
discipline.
like, I'm busy too, man. Like,
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
for those type of people, I would say, reach out to me and I can give some tips of how to do it. It took me 3.5 years, but I can give some tips of how to, fit it in, between
There you go.
kids and movies
Quit
and
eating the
things like
crayons
that.
and write with them.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of how I did it. And it was, like I said, 3.5 years, I got to interview all kinds of people that my dad served with. And then I got to really reflect on, how it influenced me and then my experience in the Army. And I hope that, I didn't want it to just be another war book. It has war stories in it. So if that's something that you find attractive, definitely check it out. But like you all mentioned, I tried to pull the lens back a little bit and talk about, both of the wars from a political policy standpoint as well. So if you're into, that academic historic lens piece as well, that's there for you. And then there's like a human interest story.
Yeah.
I talk about all the different families and how they were killed, and all the families that my dad knew growing up who were dying off in his neighborhood before he deployed, and so on, and like how I grew up, and people like all the people that you said, Stephen, just out of high school and things like that joined. So there's that human interest piece as well, and I really wanted it to. I'm hoping that the book will connect between, because these types of book have an audience, right? They have a military, like you said, the old white dudes. They have a military history audience or a veteran audience that's really going to eat it up, where the rest of society not so much. So I wanted to try to bridge that gap a little bit, because I think there's this disconnect between those who serve and then those who don't serve at all. And I think it's just growing bigger and bigger. There's like 1% of the population who continuously serves, and usually it's influenced by a father, a grandfather, mother, whatever, generational impact again. So I'm hoping that it'll reach a wider audience and try to help us understand each other and that experience of war, and that also the way that movies portray veterans now, when we're coming back from conflict, the way that we're portrayed now is that we're all like we're all just waiting to get wronged so that we can use our skills to go kill the latest, drug ring that wronged us, or the latest, government agents that wronged us, and we're going to use those skills to go get revenge on them. That's like everything that you see in movies and shows now for veterans coming back. So I would like to try to dispel that myth as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I like the like interpersonal and intergenerational quality that your book takes on. I wanted to ask you if you have ever read Tim O'Brien's The Things They Carried, I think it's called.
I did, yeah.
Yeah, that was one that I read like in high school, and I thought that did something different than a lot of other war stories, where it really put you like in the mindset of the person that was there, and it talked about like, the things that were like real or not real, but it doesn't matter because to their perspective, through the position that they're in and they're interpreting everything, that it becomes real in their mind, and then they bring it home and it's real to their families, and so on and so forth. And anyway, just another war story that's like a not your typical war story that I was reminded of by some of the stories in your book.
Yeah, I hope it is received positively like that, but I guess we'll see.
Time will tell. Yeah.
While you were like interviewing some of these folks, and reading your father's journals and everything, what were some of the things that kind of informed how you function in the military right now? Like, are there things that like very much influenced how you do things and how you operate now?
Yeah, and when you're reading these old letters that your father or mother wrote, or whomever, you think you know them, but the only way you know them is from that role, from when you were born and they were your father or your uncle or whatever. You forget that at one point, they were a young person, out there chasing tail like my dad was, and things like that when he was young. So you really see this whole other side of them that you never even knew existed, and you knew it was there because they were at one point a young person, but then you kind of really get that. But I would say that the kind of things I kind of really learned from Vietnam, looking at those personal stories of my dad and the other guys that he served with, is kind of the ethics in war, and how there's a real gray area there sometimes. And sometimes when you're sitting in a nice comfortable office like this, it's easy to criticize people who are in the thick of it, making those ethical decisions and so on. And sometimes they're making it to save their own men, when they're actually disobeying orders from higher. So I kind of learned to look at things from a different perspective, from all perspectives, and not just my perspective from my little foxhole, but trying to take that bigger view, if you will, especially from an ethical angle.
Heck yeah, man.
Well, I like the foxhole as the vantage point for your bias and your perspective. That's a great way to tie this into the theme here.
Yeah, that really is. Well, Patrick, I really appreciate you sharing all this with us. Can you tell folks where to get the book, when it's coming out, and all that kind of stuff?
Yes, it's coming out April 15th, so it's available for pre-order now. If you're in the UK, you can actually order it now. It's already available as of March 5th. I don't know why they released it in the UK first, but yeah, you see it there on Amazon. You can get it on Amazon. You can also go to Casemate Publishers. Just Google that title there and it'll pop up. And you can also go to my website. It's got links through there as well. And that's patnaughton.com. So PATN as in November, AUGHTON.com. And in there, it's got links to it. It's going to have, right now it's coming out on April 15th as a hardcover book, but also at that point, it'll open up as a digital book as well. So you can get it onto, Kindle and things like that. And that's actually a little bit cheaper too. So,
awesome.
But yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on. I'm definitely going to stick around for a little bit longer. And you guys had some really great questions, and I was really happy to talk with all of you about it.
Oh, good, man. We're glad to have you.
I don't know why it rearranges us
every time you go back. Yeah,
something else
keeps it interesting.
Well, heck yeah, man. Yeah, and I'm sure we'll talk more about this after the next segment. But at this point, it's time for some trivia. If I can pull up the right thing. All right.
I need a refill. I'll be right back.
All right, go get your refill. Let me turn on Bat Rat Unity. There we go.
This week?
What's that?
You doing haikus this week?
I'm not doing haikus for the trivia this week. I do not have nearly that amount of time to devote to libations trivia. Zane does, and Zane is our normal. Patrick. Normally, our trivia host is Zane,
okay.
one of the members of the show, and he used to just be an audience member, and then started winning as the audience, and came on the show, became a regular on the show, murdered us at trivia, and so we just made him the host. So
Nice.
We banned
Yeah,
him from
I've
playing.
watching your all's past shows, and I couldn't answer a single question, so I'm a little nervous about this.
Well, my trivia is slightly easier than Zane's trivia. However, I think there is a topic in here, March Madness, that all four of y'all might not get a single
That's
question.
probably not going to go well.
Oh, the Yukon Winter Dogs are going all the way, man.
You got Winter Dogs. That's perfect.
Okay, I did actually have A&M winning the first round, Jake, so I don't have to worry if they're still up.
They're up by 8 with 9.5 minutes left, and I'm literally sweating bullets right now. Like, yeah, I'm sweating.
Yeah, I saw Zane picked Georgia to go all the way.
Zane's an idiot. Gonzaga smoked him today.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. Welcome to Libations Trivia. The top categories for the night are This Day in History, March Madness, and St. Patty's Day. The rules are 3 rounds. Round 1, 8 questions, 1 point each. Round 2, 6 questions, 2 points each. Round 3, 4 questions, 3 points each. Every contestant answers questions with a whiteboard or a piece of paper. Each member of the audience can answer one time. Their guesses are a collective. If you blurt out an answer, you lose a point. And the winner of trivia is no longer a loser. So, right now, all of y'all are losers. So enjoy the title. All right. Round 1. This Day in History, we give about 20 seconds or so for you to either write down your answer or think it in your head if you don't happen to have a whiteboard or piece of paper. Question number 1. On this day in 1965, LBJ sends federal troops to what state to protect a civil rights march? 20 seconds. Y'all, I do think a lot of our audience actually does watch March Madness, so I'm not sure how many folks are actually going to be in the audience tonight.
Hey, we might get to win.
Y'all might get to win. All right.
I saw Hannah making posts, so we're probably not going to win.
No, A&M's back on now, so she's not in the comments anymore.
Bring it,
3,
Hannah.
2, 1. All right, Nick, what do you got?
Arkansas.
All right, Alden.
Alabama, different A name.
Steven?
Alabama. Oh, hold on. There it is.
You
Alabama.
are so bad at presenting.
I just got to look at the camera. I don't know why it's so hard.
You need a bigger board and just hold it up here. Yeah.
Alabama.
Alabama. The answer is Alabama. The audience gets it as well. Bear with me a second. I completely forgot to make a scoreboard. Give me 1 second.
Don't give him a second. He doesn't.
This is what happens when Zane doesn't run trivia.
I mean, yeah, okay. I'll take it. That's fine. Let's see.
You mean you can't host, produce, score, and watch a basketball game at the same time?
I'm a man of many talents, but
That's
my limit.
That's a good point. Our producer kind of bailed on us to go watch the Savannah Bananas.
Yeah, and why?
Savannah
I don't understand the fascination with the Savannah Bananas.
I'm trying to see them when they come to Pittsburgh.
It's just the name.
Why?
They're playing at PNC Park.
Is it basically just Harlem Globetrotters, but for baseball?
Yeah.
Except like the games aren't like scripted out on who wins. So
yeah, but Harlem Globetrotters, they're actually impressive. Are the Savannah Bananas impressive?
I don't know. They do dances and stuff.
Nope, not impressive.
Yeah,
I'm out. I don't want to watch them. All right. Question number 2. On this day in 1854, to oppose the spread of slavery, former members of the Whig Party formed what new party? $15 seconds.
I actually know this because we did a post on the LPPA social media as a This Day in History.
Gosh,
on this topic.
Oh, of course. Yeah, if it has to do with political policy, Nick's going to crush it.
3, 2, 1. All right, Nick, embarrass yourself. Republican Party. All right, Alden.
Republican.
Steven.
Federalist.
All right, Patrick.
Republican.
All right. And audience, you got about 3 seconds before I click that next slide.
No one's answered for the audience yet? Or?
No one has answered for the
Oh,
audience.
man.
All right. They're out. It is the Republican Party.
That was my first thought, but I felt like it was a trap.
Yeah, the Republicans were against slavery. A lot of people forget that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
People forget that.
There's been a lot of swip swapping with parties and ideals like over the years. Like, even just in my lifetime, I feel like, but that's a whole other conversation.
It's like a weird drift rather than a swap, in my opinion. But
I'll give you drift. That's fair.
We're gonna move on to the next question. Question number 3. On this day in 1413, which monarch ascended to the throne upon his father's death?
Do I have to point out the spelling error?
You.
The throne.
Yeah, that's my bad.
It's funny that I didn't even catch that before.
I looked at it and said that doesn't look right, but I kept reading.
Throne.
Yeah.
You spelled 1413 wrong.
10, 9. A&M's only up by 6 right now, y'all. Freaking me out. All right. 2, 1. Nick, what do you got? Philip. Alden.
I did Henry.
Okay. Steven.
I did Henry VIII.
Oh,
Patrick,
specific
what do you got?
Henry.
I did Henry V.
Oh,
Well, I'm in the Henry club.
Says Charles the First. Nikki says George. The answer is Henry V.
Wow, nice.
Wow.
right.
Historian
Already a
wins it.
half point for Henry
gets half
in
a
general.
Alden gets half a point. Yes. I'm ruling that.
That's very Patrick. Did you say the 5th? Was that you?
Yep.
Yeah,
Nicely done.
That's good. That's
I'm so bad with the numbers that I was.
I
just like,
think
I'm
Henry
just
V
gonna
was the one that he died in the jousting, right?
Is that right?
I think that's right.
I think
yeah.
so.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
he
I
died
can't
in
keep
it.
my English monarch
practice
straight. I was
jousting,
just
I guess.
thinking. Yeah,
That's got to be a rough way to go, actually.
But he was like the playboy of his day, supposedly. He was like
Huh.
when he was a young man until he got really fat. But he was like the
So he turned
the
into
playboy.
he was like Robert Baratheon at the end of his life.
Yeah.
And he was like
Yeah.
Jamie at his younger part. Like,
Then all the peasants called him Circumference.
right.
Oh.
That's a good dad joke. I'm saving that.
yeah.
All right. Question number 4. On this day in 1852, what anti-slavery book is published? 15 seconds. A&M's up by
Anti-slavery
11,
book.
y'all. A&M just went on a 5-point run.
I
3,
went on a half-point run.
2, 1. All right. Nick, what do you got? No Treason, Lysander Spooner. All right. Alden.
That's probably a better guess. I said Mein Kampf.
Republicanism 101.
That's so good. Patrick, what you got?
Uncle Tom's Cabin.
All right. Fun fact
Oh, that's
says
nice.
on human bondage. Patrick gets
It
it.
is. It's Uncle
is
Tom's Cabin.
Uncle
Nice
Tom's
done.
Cabin.
I hope my book has as big as an impact as Uncle Tom's Cabin did. It was
There
a
we
huge
go.
impact for the time. It made like a big splash.
I think he said Gone with the Wind. Incorrect. All right. Question number 5. On this day in 1345, what disease is created that was then spread by fleas? The reason created is in quotations is because it is hypothesized by people that it was created.
Yeah.
It is not proven whatsoever.
Right.
So it's not Lyme disease.
Lemon.
Why would I say anything to anything you have to say? 5, 4, 3.
Zane's not here to correct me on conspiracy
What?
theories, so
All right, Nick, what do you got? Bubonic plague. Alden.
Same.
Bubonic plague.
Black
Steven.
Plague.
Black plague. Patrick.
Same. It's the same.
Yeah, Black Plague.
Black
Same.
plague. We got audience says black plague, bubonic plague. Yep, y'all are correct.
There we go.
Everybody gets a point. Actually, can I just cancel out everybody's points so I don't have to write all these points down?
Yeah. If
the only way we
ever
could do it is
it's the
just
same.
There we go. No, I'd rather add it all up. It's more fun to see the final score. Question number 6. On this day in 1995, Which city's subway system was attacked with sarin gas? 15 seconds. I always hate it when our music goes away during a question.
Yeah, it leaves a weird empty spot.
Yeah.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Nick, what do you got?
I'm saying Tokyo.
Alden?
I said London, but I have
right.
no idea.
Steven?
NYC.
Huh.
All right.
Darren
Patrick?
and NYC.
Said Tokyo.
Nikki says Philadelphia. Some quack says London. The answer is Tokyo.
Nice.
Oh,
Okay.
Bravo.
Patrick, you're killing it, man.
I know, man. I hope I win.
Might be our
something.
first guest to win.
I can tell you.
Hey, it's been a while since we've had a guest win.
I
Yeah.
think the last guest to win was Hannah.
Do I
Was
get a? I should get a
or
free Born
after.
from War book or something if I win.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. Question number 7. On this day in 2020, with hits like Lady and the Gambler, which musical artist died at age 81? And if you don't know this, I pity you.
I know it. I can't think of it. Fuck.
I keep hearing the Dan Band sing the song "Lady."
Okay, hint, it's not the Dan Band. You got 5
I'm
seconds.
singing the Gambler in my head, but I can't remember what is.
2, 1, done. Nick, what's your guess?
I got nothing. I can't remember because
All
I know
right, Alden?
I know it. I can't remember.
Alden?
I have no idea.
All right. Steven?
Is it BB King?
All right. Patrick?
I said Frank Sinatra. I have no idea.
I'm gonna be so pissed when it's.
Some quack says Jackie Chan.
I'm going to throw out just Leonard Cohen, just as a person that I know that died around that time. But
Oh, Kenny
Kenny
Rogers.
Rogers, that's what it
that was
was.
my next.
The
one.
Gambler.
The Gambler.
yeah, see, I don't
I was
listen.
singing it in my head. I just couldn't remember Kenny Rogers.
All
I'm like, I know who this is. God damn.
right. Question number 8. Final question of round 1. On this day in 1999, Bertrand Piccard and Brian Jones became the first aviators to circumnavigate the globe in what aircraft?
The specific, like, model name?
Just what aircraft? That's as specific as I'm getting. I'll give you a hint. Maybe think outside the box.
Oh, there we go.
10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Nick, what do you got?
Blimp.
All right. Alden?
Similar, hot air balloon.
Okay. Steven?
Hot air balloon, baby.
All right, yeah.
Patrick?
Yeah, I said air balloon. I have no idea.
Mhm.
All right. The audience says helicopter. That'd have been cool.
Yeah.
The answer is hot air balloon.
Hey,
I mean, if the Earth is really spinning, you should just be able to hover in a helicopter. And
but the air is also
Yeah.
moving. Like,
Hey, let's not apply logic to Steven's awesome point. Okay.
well, it's not moving at the same rate, but it's still moving. Like,
All right. After one round, Patrick leads with 7. Alden
Nice.
has 4.5. Steven, Nick, and the audience all are tied at 3.
Jeez, this is the worst I've been doing in a while.
And Texas A&M is up by 15. So,
I had them winning in the first round, so I ain't mad.
they're my champions, so they need to win it all.
Oh, that's not gonna happen.
I'm drinking
Well,
whiskey, so I
I
don't care.
have a rule. If your team is seeded 4 or above and you don't pick them to win the national championship, you are not a true fan.
I don't know about that rule.
Nope,
Fair enough.
that's the rule. That's the rule, and you have to live with it.
I don't
right.
know.
Questions are now worth 2 points. This round is all about March Madness, so good luck to the 4 of
What
you.
are points in this round?
I'm just gonna take a nap.
In the first round of
Yeah.
the tournament, what seed pairing has an unusually high percentage of the lower seed winning about 50% of the time? I'm going to give you all some hints. So there's 1 through 16 in each region. Okay, so it's 1 plays 16, 2 plays 15, so on and so forth. The hint is it is not 7 verse 8, or it is not 8 verse 9, and it is not 7 verse 10. So it is one of the other pairings that wins. The lower seed wins 50% of the time.
We need to know the numbers that line up. I don't even know the.
Okay, it's 1 16, 2
so
15,
it works
3
in.
14,
Okay.
4 13,
Right.
5 12, 6 11, 7 10, and 8 9. Ten seconds.
Thank you for giving me the options.
You
I
should
just
have
heard
listed
one,
them
and
out.
I'm like, we're just gonna go with that one. You know.
3, 2, 1. All right, Nick, what's your guess?
413.
All right, Alden.
I went with the one that's 9/11 upside down.
Steven.
It got me too. 6'11".
Yeah. Steven and I are on the same page on this one.
Yeah.
Patrick.
Whether it's right or not, I have no idea.
I said Ho Chi Minh.
Audience is 413 and 12-5.
You said it was unusual, so it had to be further away from the 8, 9, 7.
The answer is 5 verse 12. The audience is the only one to get it correct.
Steven, we were only one away.
Yeah.
A 12 seed wins about 50% of the time. It's a wild statistic
That's
because
crazy.
yeah, because like
It's
the
good to know for
13,
betting odds. That's interesting.
13 seed wins like something like 20% of the time. Like the 11 seed wins less often than the 12 seed.
See, I should have picked that just because it's an awesome Lamb of God song. 512.
Nicely done.
You're the only one who would know that, Stephen.
Yeah,
I'm
listened to Lamb
not
of God a
talking
little
about
when I
just
was
on this
younger.
show. I'm talking about in the whole world.
Oh.
You're the only one that would know that. All right. Question number 2 of round 2. Who won the national championship last year?
Oh, Jesus.
All right.
Ho Chi Minh.
Ho Chi Minh. Can't go wrong.
Yeah. Chiang Kai-shek.
10 seconds.
My handwriting is terrible, by the way. I'm
I'm very aware.
well, I'm trying to write quick, you know.
3, 2, 1.
Got all these time
All right.
constraints.
Nick, what do you got? Purdue. That's a different kind of Purdue, but yeah,
The chicken Purdue.
that's the chicken Purdue.
I said
Oh,
Kansas. Which,
Purdue is spelled with a U, Nick.
don't care.
Steven says not UConn.
UConn.
Which is technically the
Patrick,
correct
yeah.
answer.
Patrick, what you got to guess?
Hawaii.
Yeah.
Represent.
Nikki says UConn, and Steven is the opposite of right. It was UConn.
Steven! The most hilarious trivia thing that's happened in a while, dude.
That's pretty good.
So
Oh my
Steven,
God.
y'all don't know this. Steven picked UConn to go all the way this year.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Dude.
Question number 3 of round 2. What team had their first ever tournament appearance in 1999 and have since went 26 straight years of making it into the madness? They've gotten to the tournament 26 years in a row.
That's
Ugh.
impressive.
It is very impressive.
Is it the chicken people?
15 seconds. It's,
The
I'll
chicken.
give you a hint. It's not Purdue.
That only leaves 100 and something options.
Actually, like 320 options.
It's Tyson
No.
College.
It's not college football. There's 300 and something teams. All right, Nick, what's your guess? Gonzaga. Alden.
Duke. I have no idea.
Duke's a good guess. They've made it almost that many times in a row.
UConn.
Now he's like, okay, we're doing UConn.
Patrick, you got a guess?
Oh,
Kansas.
Kansas.
Again, good guess, because they probably have made it almost 26 times in a row.
That's why I
Um,
guessed him last time. Just,
Quack says U of A, which I believe is Arizona.
I mean, U of A. I have no idea.
Gonzaga.
Hannah agrees with me. I must be right.
You are correct.
Yes.
Gonzaga.
Oh, nice.
Ah,
It is
man.
So back in the day, Gonzaga was the school no one had heard of.
I still
it was
haven't heard of him. So
Shocked that they made it to the tournament, and then they won like 3 games. It was-
where is Gonzaga? What is this?
I believe it's in
Spokane,
Wa-
isn't it?
Yeah, it's in
It's
Washington.
in Washington.
So, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I believe it's in Spokane.
Gonzaga Bulldogs. It's
But it's,
funny.
yeah, one of those schools that
East Washington.
you just see every year in the tournament, and like
Yeah.
you don't know anything about it besides they're in the tournament every year and
That's funny.
tend to do all right. I mean, they upset someone,
I
right?
mean, they smoked.
They
Georgia
just upset
today.
me.
They're
Yeah,
number
they
8
did
seed
play
today.
Georgia.
Yeah.
I mean, that was like an 8-9 thing, so it's not
Yep.
really a
50-50
big
shot.
upset, but
All right, question number 4 of round 2. This is a Texas A&M question.
Of course
In
it is.
2007, Texas A&M achieved their highest seed of all time. What was it? So you have a 1 in 16 chance of getting this one correct.
not if you've been paying attention to what you've said.
Oh, really? He mentioned this?
I didn't mention this exactly.
But he really limited down what the answer could be.
I really did. You're correct.
Hmm.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Nick.
I'm saying 3.
Alden.
I did 5.
Steven.
3.
Dang it.
Patrick.
Did I miss a clue?
I copied
No!
Hannah because she got it right last time, so I said 3.
What did everyone else hear that I didn't know?
It is number
Oh,
He
3.
said,
no.
Alden, he said if your team is seated in the top 4, if you don't pick them, then you're not a real fan. And so you
I
know it has
understand.
to at least be top 4.
All right.
Well, they were 4 this year. They were 3 in 2007.
Right. So I was
I
like, it has
had
to be above
4
4.
Written,
So it was like
and
a
then
1 in 3 shot if you were paying attention.
I changed it to 5. I should have changed it to 3.
Yeah.
Dang it.
Yep. It's okay, Alden. You're not going to win.
No. It started out pretty okay, but
Well,
then we
you
got
still
into
have round
fucking March
3.
Madness. And,
Dude, the third round is
Anything can
all
happen
about
in
St.
round
Patty's
3.
Day, so you could catch back up.
well, you should call it St. Patrick's Day because no one in fucking Ireland calls it St. Patty's Day.
I know, but I'm not in Ireland. I'm an American, so shut your mouth.
Well, I'm not going to win American St. Patty's Day trivia then.
Oh, that's too bad.
I
Question
know.
number 5, round 2. What longtime former host of March Madness passed away in 2024? He's a huge announcer. He would do many other sports besides March Madness. Trying to give y'all hints without giving y'all major hints. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Nick.
I'm going with, I have no idea.
Alden.
I wrote your mom or Dick Clark, whatever one is closer to right.
There you
Steven.
go. I'm saying Don Imus.
Oh,
R.I.P.
good guess. Patrick.
I said O.J. Simpson.
What a great answer.
The audience says Greg Gumbel, and it is indeed Greg Gumbel.
That's
He
what I
was-
said. Your mom. Your mom's name is Greg Gumbel, right?
He was iconic. It was extremely sad when he passed last year. He would always start March Madness and end March Madness, and he would end with announcing one shining moment and the whole highlight reel. And it was just a massive.
I'll take
tradition.
your word for it.
Lasted a long time.
Yeah.
It was great. All right. That was my tribute to him. There we go. Question number 6. Who was the worst seeded team to ever win the national championship, and what was their seed? Alden, if you give a sexual joke, you get negative points.
I fucking thought of it. I literally thought of it. Well, you just took the fun out of it, so I won't.
I made it more fun for me, though. 10 seconds. This is a toughie. 3, 2, 1. Nick, what do you got? UConn, 10. Alden, what do you got?
Gonzaga, 16.
Steven, what do you got?
I got UConn 12.
Okay. Patrick?
I don't know. Arizona 3. I don't even know what that means, but
The answer is Villanova as an 8 seed.
Oh
in
my
1985.
God, Hannah, get out
I
of
know. I
here.
gotta start copying her.
Yeah.
All right. After 2 rounds, the audience has lurched ahead.
Oh
with
my God, of
15.
course.
Patrick has 9. Nick has 7. Steven has 5, and Alden has 4.5.
I got
Because Hannah's
nothing in
playing
that
in the
whole
audience.
round. Yes.
Yeah.
Round number 3, questions are 3 points each. There are 4 questions, so everybody is still, able to win. There we go.
Hopefully, you have to be drunk to answer these correctly.
Actually, it probably does help.
Sweet.
Have an edge.
Round 3, here we go. Question 1. Why is green the official color of St. Patrick's Day?
I'm using a green pen. Does that help?
10
No.
seconds.
Am I wearing green underwear? Not today. It's
I
not
am.
today. You are? Nice to
2,
know.
1. All right, Nick, what do you got?
The clover.
Okay,
Over.
Alden. Steven?
I just did a word salad here. I did. Hold up. Ireland shamrock clovers.
Patrick,
Shamrock.
what do you got?
Yeah, Green Hills of Ireland. Of
All
clovers.
right. Yeah.
We got clovers are green because of the Shamrock Shake. So I'm giving half points, half answer correct to a few of y'all. Ireland is the Emerald Isle.
Yeah.
A lot of that has to do with clovers. So whoever said clovers gets 1.5 points.
I'll take it.
And Patrick, what was your answer?
The Green
said
Hills of Ireland.
Green hills.
That's kind of right.
The hills are made up of clovers. Give them a half.
I mean, Patrick's definitely getting 1.5 points.
I mean, emerald is a synonym for green.
Yeah, there you go.
That's fair. Alden, did you say clovers as well?
Yeah.
Okay. Alden, you no longer have a half point, but everybody else does now.
Yes. A first time.
You're the only one who has a round number.
I like even integers. I'm into it.
All right, here we go. Question number 2. What is the significance of the shamrock on St. Patty's Day? Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Nick.
Cross.
Okay, Alden.
Luck.
Steven.
Good luck. +3.
Okay, Patrick.
+3.
I said it's the Catholicism, the Trinity, the Son, the Father, and the Holy Ghost.
All right.
But isn't a
The
shamrock
audience
a four-leaf
says
clover?
it's for good luck. 4 leaves is rare, so it's lucky. So the only one who got it 100% correct is Patrick. The 3-leaf clover symbolizes the Holy Trinity.
That's so weird that the shamrock, though, is depicted as 4.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Not always. But
I thought the shamrock was the 4-leaf
Yeah.
clover.
that's more of a nowadays type thing.
Oh, well, then
Yeah.
fuck me for being born nowadays. I don't fucking know, I guess.
But if you're Irish and you find a 4-leaf clover, you're supposed to put it in your Bible.
Oh, really? Like press it
Yeah.
flat or something?
Yeah, like press it
or-
in your Bible and keep it there.
Yeah.
Nick,
put
I
it in
gave
my
you
pants, so.
Nick, I gave you 1.5 points because the
I think
cross
that's fair.
is the symbol of the
Cross,
Trinity as
yeah.
well. So there you go.
Oh, that's bullshit.
See, I thought Shamrock was referring to 4-leaf. If I had thought 3-leaf, I would have
Well-
had that because it crossed my mind as well.
A
So I'll-
cross either has 2 components or 4, not 3. I'm sorry. Fuck you both. Fuck you, I'm joining the army. Jesus.
There you go. Join the army. Light up.
I'm rebelling. I'm joining the
Number
most
3.
disciplined unit on earth.
There you go.
What are the cities with the top 3 largest St. Patrick's Day celebrations in the United States? 1 point per city you get correct. Audience, each audience member, you can only suggest 3 cities. Five, 4, 3, 2.
Changing my last answer.
Nick.
Boston, NYC, Pittsburgh.
All right. Alden.
Boston, Savannah, Chicago.
All right. Steven.
Chicago, Philly, NYC.
Okay. Patrick.
Boston, New York, and Chicago.
All right. Audience says Chicago, New York, Boston. and Boston, Chicago, New York.
In the other way.
Chicago, Boston, South Bend. The
South
answer
Bend?
is New York,
Oh,
Chicago,
yeah.
and Savannah. I believe Alden gets 2 points. Steven gets 2 points. I think Patrick gets 2 points. Correct? The audience.
Boston's not fucking in
Boston.
there. They have the
Yeah, how's
goddamn
that
Celts.
not-
Like,
Is that not the wildest thing ever?
I
Nick,
that
get
is
one
such a
point.
Nick gets 1
I-
point, right?
Hey, you guys haven't seen a Pittsburgh St. Patrick's Day. I mean, it is wild here. It is one
Have
of
you
the
been to
biggest.
Savannah?
Have you been to Savannah?
Dude, Savannah's insane.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
free
Had-
St.
had-
Patrick's Day there.
The streets just smell like piss. It's wild, dude.
Yeah.
It's a great time. You should go. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Final question of the game. The only people who can win are Patrick and the audience.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Don't do that, Patrick.
Here we go. Question number 4. According to Irish folklore, wow. According to the Irish folklore, goodness gracious, leprechauns are experts in what trade craft? Nick. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Let me give y'all some time. Sorry.
Yeah. Before we can even write it, go.
Dude, I'm all hopped up. A&M's about to win. I'm so excited.
I'm all hopped up on Mountain Dew.
Oh, that one. I was going to say cactus juice. But
What's that from?
I think that's from Psych.
Oh, I don't know that.
I know. Yeah, no, I'm all hopped up on Mountain Dew. Such a good one. All right. 3, 2, 1. Nick.
Stealing me Lucky Charms.
Alden.
Anal, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
Steven.
I said B-list horror films.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Patrick.
I said mound and fence building.
There we go. We got Hannah said
The only
welder.
one that might be right.
Some quack said metallurgy. Nikki said shoemakers. And the answer is cobbling or
Oh, man.
Oh,
shoemaking.
nice.
Ooh.
Nice. I didn't get that.
Nothing
one.
to do with anal. Surprising.
I know. It's extremely surprising.
Who
The audience
would've
barely
known?
closed it out with a score of 21.5. Patrick comes in second with 15.5. Nick in third with 11. Steven with 8.5. And Alden rounding up the anal with 8.
I'm gonna Google cobbling. If anything with a butt comes up when I Google cobbling, then I want half a point.
Perfect. Okay, we'll try to. We'll do a redaction and reprint.
Yeah.
Our thoughts on that, or whoever won.
Well, that was
All
terrible. on my
right.
part.
All right, y'all. Before we move on, before we go any further, head on over to peacefulsea.network. You can watch this show there. You can also go on to our 2 favorite platforms, Spotify and Rumble. Those are the platforms that allow us to earn the most amount of money from these shows. They pay out the biggest percentage. They're just the best as far as
Don't they censor the least?
they censor the least.
Yeah.
And they have the best payout for creators. So you can also, we have created a playlist that we add every episode that Peaceful Sea Network does to this playlist. So if you just subscribe to the playlist, you get to listen and watch every single thing that we at Peaceful Sea Network produce and put out there. So
Like the Wrexham Texan.
like the Wrexham Texan, philosophical fall guy.
Almost rhymes, and it drives me crazy, similar to like Dora the Explorer, where I'm like, it's just like it, just, not quite, but good try, you know.
So you can also join the Dollar Media Club, where you get some extra benefits, including access to subscriber-only shows, such as the offshoot of this show, which is called Pants Drunk.
I still need to do a Pants Drunk with Zane. I feel like that'll be wild.
Yeah,
I got to do one with Gnome at some point.
Right.
Oh, nice.
All right, y'all. We're moving on to actually, let's hit on something before we get to our next topic, which is something that happened today. It was breaking news. Donald Trump signs an executive order to shut down the Department of Education, and libertarians around the country rejoice.
Yeah.
This is something that he promised to do. I never actually thought he would do it. Didn't think this would ever come about.
Good
it
riddance.
was one of the reasons that I voted for him. So there you go.
He's doing a lot of like man of his word type stuff here, where he's like hitting all the points he said.
He's
It's just then the courts.
things.
It's just then the courts come around and say, no, you can't do that.
Right? No, he's trying. He's trying. Like for show, he's trying to be the man of his word type thing, at least. Yeah.
Or like a lot of the cuts in employment, that Doge has made. Rand Paul tried to follow up and make some of that permanent with legislation, and then the Republicans are like, nah.
Yeah, or the courts came back and said, no, you actually have to spend all that money on the USAID boondoggles, and it's like, it's unconstitutional if you don't spend that money. And I'm like,
isn't it the most government thing though, where like the government says that the government is inefficient, and then another part of the government says no, but you have to do that anyway. Like this is the most government thing I've ever heard. Like,
well, Patrick, what do you think of Trump signing the bill to shut down?
No, don't ask him. He works for the government.
I was about to say, yeah, I'm apolitical. I have no comment. No,
he's a fan.
The only fan here is
I'm writing a report right now. Don't worry about it.
It's going to take you 10 weeks. It'll be 3 pages long.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
So yeah, that was something that us libertarians have been hoping for a long time. We used to have a incredible education system. We were ranked #1 worldwide before the Department of Education.
What year was that?
Started. That was
late 70s.
48.
It was under Jimmy Carter.
Carter was president. He started it with an executive order.
Under the peanut farmer, we were #1 in education. That's amazing.
Before the peanut farmer.
Peanut farmer.
Yeah, he stopped that.
Oh, yeah.
And since the Department of Education has been implemented, we have plummeted. I think we're in the 30s or 40s now, ranked worldwide. It's become a problem, and you can, just go on the internet and you can see the complete lack of education. The number of times I've seen man on the street videos of people asking, what's the capital of the United States, and them not knowing the answer makes
Tallahassee.
He's so sad. So hopefully this will give power back to the states to make their own curriculums, get the federal government out of the education system, and kind of allow people to do, more things that they see fit rather than a mandated thing.
I like at least calling attention to that the Department of Education is no longer doing what it once did, and it needs at least changing. If not, eradicating, then at least addressing. But
no, the only way to fix it is to eradicate it.
Well, and that's the misconception though, because a lot of people have this thought that like, okay, so he's just banning the Department of Education. He wants us to be dumb. No, like if it's truly an essential function, it's still going to be performed whether the government does it or not.
Agreed.
Right? It's just whoever fills that void now is going to have to account for their actual budget, rather than you have this ever increasing budget, whether or not you produce results, which by the way, you never did.
Right.
It's one of those things where like literally nothing is better than what's happening.
Yeah, my wife was a school teacher when I met her, and they were so hampered by these, restrictions and mandatory things that were forced on them from the federal level. And so I think this, like you said, Jake, this would be a good thing for that local level to really get after what they need to without all that stuff tying their hands up.
Heck yeah. My brother and his wife were both public school teachers, and they stopped doing it. It was too problematic. Stopped, they ended up hating their jobs and didn't want anything to do with it. So
I had teachers that would tell me I should be a teacher, and then I asked them some questions about what they were able to freely do and say with their rubric, and they were like, "Oh no, it's pretty specific." And I'm like, "Yeah, no, I don't want to do that. This comes down to the authority thing again for me, where I'm like, no, like I'm not going to teach the Egyptology thing specific to the way that you must, or like standardized testing or whatever. I'm like, I can't do it." And I like the idea of teaching, but within the system that we have, I don't know, turned away from it because it was just so hands tied behind your back, kind of just like absolute control.
And it's really telling that, arguably the most decorated, most respected, venerated teacher that we've had in this country in the last, 50 years, John Taylor Gatto. every time they gave
Good
this man an
Pittsburgher.
award, every time they gave this man an award, he would get up on the podium and he would spend his dedicated 10 minutes talking about how the system is broken and how he won this award, how he's the best teacher because he does not follow the rules.
Not to mention that his retirement letter was called "I Quit, I Think."
Right?
That's amazing. I don't know anything about this person. This is cool.
Oh,
dude, you got to read a couple of his books, man. That dude is incredible.
I just wrote his name down.
John Taylor Gatto, Gatto.
Yeah. I'm just going to put a line down next to my O, Gatto. Got it.
So
Yeah.
he's
right.
Friend of the show, Shane Hazel, ran for governor in Georgia in 2022. John Taylor Gatto is the reason that Shane became a libertarian.
Interesting.
He did it while he read one of his books while he was on tour in the Middle East, and from then on, he was like, "Oh man, this guy knows what's up." And
the book "Dumbing Us Down," where he talks about the Prussian model of education. Yes, the Franco-Prussian War. There were guys that were like, "This war is pointless. I'm getting my ass kicked out here. I'm going to go be with my family."
Yeah,
and then the Prussian oligarchy didn't like that, so they were like, "Okay, so how do we create this new class of warrior?" And Patrick, you may know this just from military history. How do we create this new class of warrior that's not going to ask questions? That's just going to follow orders.
Fluoride.
Not yet, because I mean we're talking 1700s, 1800s.
I know.
Yeah.
Prussian army.
So what they came up with was the concept of kindergarten. They were like, give me your kids a year early. We'll go ahead and we'll start this in here. And the whole first year, they're not actually learning anything but to shut up and raise their hand and ask. Is
that
permission.
why it's called kindergarten? Because it's like a German root word of kindergarten, kids. Like, okay, that's interesting.
Yep, and that's exactly it. In Massachusetts, up until the mid 1800s, the teachers in that town were habitually run out of town by torches and pitchforks by the people that lived there, because they would start indoctrinating. Instead of just teaching reading, writing, arithmetic, they would start indoctrinating certain beliefs, and the parents would get together and, what the hell are you teaching my kids? Get out of here.
Wow.
Do you guys think we should have like any unified like school system, or should we just do like more like true free market kind of style, wildly different, and just like send your kid to the school system that like aligns more with your sort of, beliefs or whatever? And I
mean, why not both? I mean, like, why does it have to be a national model, right? Because Alaska doesn't have the same values as Hawaii, which definitely doesn't have the same values as Georgia, right? Like,
it's a big country. We live in a very large nation.
But also, you're talking about forcing young kids, 5, 6, 7 years old, to sit there, shut up, pay attention, raise your hand, respond to a bell, whatever, versus, different models of opening it up, letting kids explore what they want. What works for their learning style, because everyone's different there, and the one size fits all approach, doesn't really factor into, some kids need this style to learn, some need that, some are faster, some are slower. And so you're constantly kind of going to the lowest common denominator or to the median, and then when you're at the median, you're losing the ends, and if you're lowest common denominator, you're losing everything above there. So you've got to have a variety. You've got to provide it in a way that offers variety and allows choice, allows competition in it. Not these teachers who get quote unquote what is it, the tenure, who get quote unquote tenure for teaching at public schools. That way they can't ever be fired, when the whole purpose of tenure at the university system was to protect people doing research, like, from being fired over, well, we think your research is this or that or whatever. So the tenure was designed to protect the researcher, and they just said, oh, well, these professors teach and they get public school teachers should get tenure too, so you can't ever fire them even if they don't show up or don't do this or don't do that.
I've heard
if you do fire them, they're still eligible for pension.
And I think part of this is, I think I haven't really read Gatto. I've watched a lot of it, but I think in his he did a long series of interviews with Richard Grove several years, maybe a decade ago, and I think he was talking into that like New York City actually had like buildings and classrooms where they would assign bad teachers where there were in buildings where there were no students, and then their job was just to go and sit there and get paid all day.
Yeah,
that sounds like a government job. Yeah,
yeah. And there's a crazy documentary too that'll really kind of shed light on that too, because it illustrates like the charter school, the whole lottery system, like how that even came about. It's called Waiting for Superman, and that one will make you cry. Holy crap, man!
My sister used to teach at a charter school, and she had her own challenges there to report.
Yeah.
I've had several family members in the school system, and the tenure system has come up as a pain point several times in our young lives growing up. With like my mom worked in it, and then my sister went to go on to work in the school system, and it's a mess, man, honestly. Like from what I went to school, and so I have my own stories just through that, and then having people that have worked in it, like it truly is a mess. And I think anyone, just like attacking Trump for like signing this and trying to like revamp the system or whatever, I think it just gets in general to like circle back to the beginning of what we started talking about this with, the idea of education and the Department of Education are different things. And anyone that's opposed to the Department of Education is not specifically necessarily opposed to the idea of education. In fact, I want to see better education, and I don't think that the Department of Education is necessarily the best way to go about that. At least over the years here, their history has not shown that that's the best way. So just
100%.
to sum it back up to that, I don't think that those things are one and the same.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's a guy that I used to work with. He's a few years older than me, but he moved down here. He was going to Fayette County High School, and he moved down from Brooklyn, and he was in what they called the Regents program. So this is late '90s. He was graduating class of 2000, and so he comes down. He's in the Regents program. So the Regents program up there is like it's basically dual enrollment. Like you're basically going to community college at that point, but it's a public school. But I mean, you're coming out of there with proficiency of community college level education. Then he comes down here to Fayette County, Georgia, in the late '90s, and they're like, "What's this Regents program? We ain't never heard of that. How about Algebra 3?" And he's like, "I took that in middle school."
Yeah. I wish someone had told me that the AP program when I was in high school doesn't mean dick. And like most colleges don't acknowledge it at all. In high school, they tell you if you take all these AP classes, you're like, oh, they're college credits. And they're like fine print. Like if the fucking college that you go to approves it, which none do. Like, because they want to pay for their own
he moves down here from Brooklyn, sophomore year of high school, and he's done. Like according to our curriculum down here, he's done. He's more than done. He's almost got an associate's degray, but no one recognizes what the hell he was doing up there.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's like, I think I'm smarter than you.
Right. Yeah.
And you're running the office here. Like, what's going on? He's like, well, I guess I'll just smoke pot behind Arby's with everybody else. Sign me up for wood
sounds
shop.
like my life course then. Sure. Yeah.
Patrick, does any of this, you get any of these stories from your wife being an educator back in the day?
Yeah, no, yeah, it all sounds familiar. Really two things kind of come to mind. One is, listening to y'all, I never really paid attention to education because I had no dog in the fight. But now that my son is 3, I'm realizing from listening to you guys, like, oh man, I need to start paying attention to this because he's going to start going to school soon. And then the second thing is for Alden is, as soon as that teacher told you and turned you off from wanting to become a teacher, that's when you should have joined the Army. You missed it. You missed the window.
Yeah. That probably is right. Yeah, look into, if you're interested into Patrick, some like parallel style like schooling, like Montessori is like one that does some just different things and like more like hands-on learning, and like there's various different things.
Montessori's learn at your own pace kind of thing.
Yeah, we looked at those.
Oh, so you're looking into it already?
Yeah. So my wife was a teacher for years before we got married. So she's like dialed in on all that. She's always doing
Nice.
little learning things with
You'll
him
be
and
fine.
stuff. Yeah,
Your kid will
she's
be
on
fine.
it.
Yeah.
That's a good suggestion. Thank you.
But
yeah,
if you want them to have any kind of religion, you got to do that at home.
Yeah, yeah,
That's why we
But
homeschool.
yeah.
I definitely recommend, if not reading John Taylor Gatto, at least go on YouTube and look up the Ultimate History Lesson with John Taylor Gatto, and it's like hours over several days of him just talking and kind of letting everything he knows out there, and it's really impressive and really interesting. If listening's more your speed because you're doing stuff versus
I can do that
right,
while
yeah.
working on my house and cleaning my pool. Yeah, I'm into that. Yeah.
All right. We had another topic. We're at 1 hour and 50 minutes, and I do want to get out of here at about 2 hours. So we're going to save the conspiracy talk for
next week.
Zane is actually here, and we're going to annoy the ever-living.
Is this the one with the
police chief in
Maui
Maui?
police chief and
who was also in Vegas. And
also in Vegas.
Yeah, he was the
stated
same
in the Diddy case.
Patrick's a Hawaii native, so
we might have to get into this a little bit, Jake.
Okay, fine. I'll put it up on
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know much about it, but yeah, I'd like to hear it.
I was curious.
So, Diddy lawsuit names Maui police chief as a co-conspirator.
This is a TMZ source,
It is a TMZ source, but it still is. It's legit.
Okay.
Just the best visual that I could find. So, Alden, explain who the Maui police chief is. And
I know him better from the Vegas shooting debacle, and then he transplanted to Maui, and then the fucking Maui fires thing happened, and now he's attached to Diddy. So this man just cannot escape a good conspiracy. It's insane. He's tied to 3 fucking conspiracies in like almost as many years. It's wild. I don't even want to talk about it. Actually,
it's a wild one, and I think it probably does. I think we probably should spend a little more time looking into it and confirming things before we go too wild.
I haven't looked into this leg of it, but I can speak to Maui and I can speak to the Nevada. The
Vegas one,
which we already did, but
what'll set me off if his roof is blue. I will lose my mind.
Patrick,
I don't know. Patrick
theories with Lahaina is the fires were started with lasers that can't light blue things on fire.
It's a blue laser.
Any house that has a blue roof or any blue trash can or blue umbrella was left untouched by the fires. And you can see this on satellite imagery and videos and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, I never heard. Lahaina, if you've ever been there, it was an old whaling town, prime real estate. So I mean, if there's a conspiracy to burn it down, I wouldn't be surprised. But
and then they started talking about the smart city rebuild thing after this very quickly, and then in the fires in whatever part of LA it was or whatever, they started talking about this. Smoke is still in the air. There's talking about the smart city rebuild thing, and they wheel out some plan, and you're like, wait a minute, this plan is hundreds of pages long, and you're talking about that you put this together while the city was burning? This is like the 300 or 600 page document that was the Patriot Act that came out after 9/11. I had to bring it up. I'm sorry, Patrick. It came up like 6 days after the attack. Right. And they were like, here's this 300 or 600 page document that is the Patriot Act that felt very, long and thought out. And it almost just feels pre-prepared. And I'm sorry if I'm very much giving away my position on this. But
prepared, right?
Yeah. Well, and Myrtle Beach, same thing's happening in Myrtle Beach right now. A couple of weeks ago, there was like 1,200 acres that were burning down.
Oh, that's right. The Carolina fires. That's right. Yeah.
2 weeks before the fire started, there was a smart city plan for that exact area for the exact acreage.
Okay.
Fortunately, our producer who knows all about the smart city stuff is not here.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Let's pause on the conspiracy talk with this one because it's getting extremely interesting, and I want Zach here since he's the expert on this kind of stuff on the smart city side of things. So let's get into what.
Can I do a very quick 1-sentence question for Patrick?
Yeah, please.
Is there anything that you differ on based on like the prompt for going into the Iraq like war on terror situation post 9/11 based on like the mainstream sort of pitch at the time? Is there anything that you like had questions about or pushed back on for the premise of going to war?
Yeah, no, I mean, again, just my personal opinion. Afghanistan, yes. Iraq, huge no. I think all of that was predicated on false. I don't want to say falsities, but Iraq, there was no purpose. There was no reason for us to be in there. All the things that we said we were going there for were disproven. Weapons of mass destruction, ties to Al Qaeda, all those other things. So, history will tell one day, and really why we went into Iraq. But I'm not necessarily sure if that made the homeland any safer at all.
Yeah.
That's
when you
okay.
say yes,
Yeah, that's
when you
interesting.
say yes, Afghanistan, you're saying specifically going after and preventing,
guarding
Al-Qaeda
Afghan
camps
poppy
there,
fields.
not so much the 20-year debacle.
Yeah,
of trying to rebuild.
that's the thing is what was our objective in Afghanistan initially? And I know we're running out of time. But what was our objective initially? It was to disable them the ability to strike the homeland again, and give that safe haven for terrorist groups to train. We achieved that right away, and then after that, we didn't know what was next, and that's why we were there for 20 years. So I think initially, yes, and then we lost.
But
yeah, and just those type of conspiracies too. But initially, we achieved our objective very quickly, and then why were we there for 20 years later? Still ongoing.
How do you feel about the pullout out of Afghanistan?
Yeah, I mean, watching that on the news, crying. That's in my book as well. That was horrible. Again, we armed the probably deadliest terrorist group in history. We left a whole bunch of arms for them.
Yeah, we left a metric butt ton of arms over there.
Well, and
complete disaster.
If you listen to the Sean Ryan show, apparently we're still giving those guys $40 to $80 million a month.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that, but I know, it's complete disaster. Complete disaster. The pullout. The whole. I mean,
and was that my ultimate question? Comes down to, was that ineptitude or by plan? Is this to arm people in the region with just here's just a stockpile of arms, or is it just bumbling ineptitude?
Well, I can tell you, one of my best friends, while he was over there, one of his tours in Iraq, there was a town. They spent a week clearing the town out of terrorists, whatever, and then they were going to help them build a well. Right. So U.S. Army Corps of Engineers developed this plan of, building a well because it wasn't gravity flow, because the creek was like 100 feet elevation wise.
It sounds like a joke. Like, how many government employees does it take to build a well?
But they had to build this well. They had to build a sump, and they had to build a line to get it up into the town. Okay. Right. U.S. Army Corps of Engineers estimated the construction cost to be $28,000. My buddy personally handed off a duffel bag of $400,000 to one of the village elders. 6 months later, construction had not began.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stories like that, like crazy.
Yeah, there's mismanagement. So to get back after Alden's question, again, I work for the government. Do I think that, are we that capable and competent of planning something out where we're arming the Taliban and we're trying to shape geopolitically the region? I don't think we are. I think it was bumble after bumble after bumble after handing out cash for what we thought were payoffs to get whatever we needed for whatever that region was.
Right.
So I think it's just a series of bumbling, a series of misunderstandings. I mean, you have to understand, in Afghanistan and Iraq, every year, everybody was switching out, right? So those senior leaders were coming through every year with their own impression of how they should fight the war. So they would, a unit would stay there with certain senior leaders and say, this is how we're going to execute through this year. And then they would do all these things. And then next they would switch out, and it'd be a whole new set of senior leaders coming in for the next year. And everybody had a different opinion of how they should do it, how they should execute it.
Right.
And so it was like 20 wars fought at a year at a time by different people.
Interesting. Yeah,
I call it my level one, my base explanation is the ineptitude and the chaos of organized government kind of operations and things like that. And and I do fall back to that as my just when, almost like the Occam's razor thing of it really very well could be just through ineptitude that something is, and the chaos of the left hand doesn't know what the right is doing. And, when things fall through the cracks, I've looked into things enough to come to my own conclusion that I think that there are aspects that are more concerted and behind the scenes sort of driven and designed, but it's not everyone. And and I don't want to give credence to every conspiracy. There are some dog ass conspiracies out there that
wild shit out there.
I don't think the earth is flat, but so there are things that I don't think hold water. But there are some things that I do think do, and it's just
you're looking at conflict, you have to think, it's not only the military that was in Iraq and Afghanistan, and you look at like what Doge's doing now, trying to downsize the government. I mean, you had USAID, you had CIA, I mean, you had all kinds of three-letter agencies that were there. Then you had all kind of non-governmental organizations, and everybody's doing their own thing, has their own opinion of how they're going to fight the war. Same thing was done in Vietnam that we did again in Iraq and Afghanistan. I write in my book
rebuild, like the no-bid contract rebuilds to different companies and things like that, and
And so I write in my, it goes back to my earlier comment about our obsession with putting the least amount of input into it, expecting the most maximum output from it. If our political leaders decide that we need to go to war, then we need to go to war with everything. We need to put all our effort into it. We need to go there to start it and stay until it ends, and not try to do this half-ass thing that we did in Vietnam and then later in Iraq and Afghanistan. We're just using a volunteer army. We're just going to send this many people. We're going to throw $400,000 to this person to try to gain an aim, to try to gain an end. So it needs to be a full commitment for the full time. And I know what I'm saying, because that would end up me being in war for 5-6 years. But that's the only way we're going to achieve our objective, if we put all our resources behind it.
Yeah. This feels like the equivalent, like the military or government equivalent of like a shitty house flipper that like buys a house and is like, let's put 2 cents a square foot flooring in this place and just cover up patch that hole with bubble gum and toothpaste and whatever, and then try to flip it and then expect to make 3 times what you paid for the house. And you're like, no, you ruined this house. Like you did nothing. Like,
and then your wife comes in behind you and teaches the tenants how to sue the developer.
This sounds like a personal story.
Like that's what's going on right now.
All right, we're gonna move on to the next bit, and then we're gonna wrap up and get out of here.
I am not fucking drunk.
Well, my teeth are blue.
Every pretty girl deserves to go to a ball.
This is everything about it's a clam. I love it.
I gotta be honest with you, I feel like I'm a little bit too drunk to stand up.
Auf Wiedersehen, asshole.
I'm drunk right now.
All right, welcome to Drunkard of the Week, where you can submit your own nominations via X at Liberty Libation or via our Discord if you're a member of the Dollar Media Club. The Drunkard of the Week is someone doing or saying something that can only be explained if they are drunk, but they're not.
Presumably not.
No, presumably not. I really hope this person extremely plastered. So here you go. Here's the Drunkard of the Week.
Hour on a walk through the Dylan Hour, feeling sweet, feeling sour.
I feel nothing.
The Dylan Hour. My couch is open. It's better than therapy. All you soccer moms, all your theys and thems, all your bottom boys, my bisexual femmes. Come one and all, disassociate with me. It's free. Grab a drink or 2 or 3. You have no friends. All good, you got me. It's the Dylan Hour. Love ya.
I'm not as thin as you drunk I am.
Glad you used my nomination.
So that was a nomination from Nick. That is Dylan Mulvaney is suddenly popping back up in my freaking feed. They're just the worst.
I don't know. Is that John Mulvaney's wife?
John Mulvaney.
Yeah. So I guess Dylan's launching a new show called The Dylan Hour, and it's going to be as cringe as their promo.
I mean, she had me at a martini or 2 or 3, you know.
For those who don't know, Dylan really made massive headlines when promoting Bud Light with Dylan's face on it. And then Bud Light was boycotted because of it.
Because Kid Rock shot a case of it in his backyard.
Kid Rock did something awesome and shot up a case of Bud Light, which I thought
Is this the whole?
That wasn't even like a production run of it, but they just gave Dylan a can with.
It was not a
based
production
on it.
run. I mean, the whole thing is ridiculous.
Is this the whole thing over the like trans thing?
Yeah.
So is Dylan Mulvaney a trans person? I didn't even realize.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes, but like we don't know if Dylan is actually trans or like mock or like because he takes like everything's so over the top. It's hard to tell if like that if actually trying to be a woman or like just taking like the wildest stereotypes and running with it.
Oh, interesting. Almost for like comedic purposes or for like
but not from like a satire side.
The one's putting her in my feed is you. So thank you for that. Yeah,
I don't know who this person is actually. But.
They've done. I mean, Dylan did this whole thing showing her like hiking heels, like going on a hike, and these are my hiking heels, and like they're these.
See, this sounds like satire because that's not.
It's like satire, but like not.
Dude, it's the weirdest.
That's
thing.
why it's weird.
That's bizarre.
And
just
so
watch some Dylan Mulvaney videos.
These are the moments that I'm actually grateful I live under a rock.
Yeah, no, you should be.
Yeah,
these things are imprinted in my brain forever, and I can't get them out.
You gotta use Guinness to just like dissolve.
Back in my day, it was the Rocky Horror Picture Show. You know.
Oh, I remember. No, I've seen that. Yeah.
At the Plaza Theater in Atlanta, like every Tuesday night, they do the Rocky Horror
the
Picture.
Transsexuals from Transylvania or Planet Transylvania or whatever the hell. That's so wild.
Patrick, do you have any thoughts on Dylan Mulvaney?
No, I didn't know who that was until you mentioned the Bud Light,
either.
and I was like, "Oh, okay,
yeah." That was part of the whole Bud Light controversy. Was Dylan Mulvaney?
I knew of the Bud Light controversy. But I didn't know who it was. Like, because I don't.
He thought it was just Patrick probably thought it was just a Navy guy.
Yeah, I did. I thought it was a Navy recruiting commercial. Honestly.
Oh God.
That's so good. Well, y'all, we've reached nearly the end of our show. We generally wrap up with a few funny videos to cleanse our palate of the nonsense that we just saw. But everybody, thank y'all for tuning in. Patrick, we appreciate you coming on the show, man.
Yeah, man.
Definitely going to finish reading the book. Really have enjoyed it so far, and I appreciate your thoughts and comparisons on war from Vietnam and the war like culture we live in today. So
and the generational component is like maybe the most interesting to me.
Yeah, completely agree.
No, I appreciate y'all having me on. I really enjoyed the conversation, and I wish everybody the best. And I hope you finish the book and enjoy it. And Steven help sleeping. He said you can just keep reading it. It'll put you to sleep each night. It's all good.
Yeah, you can go pre-order the book on Amazon. You can go to his site, patnaughton.com. I believe it's in the episode description, so you can go click directly on that and head on over to peacefulc.network. Check out what we got there. Subscribe to our other shows. We've got a bunch of stuff, including new ones that just came out and soon to be launched. So go check it out, peacefulc.network. And Patrick, if you want to stick around, we're just going to watch, I think, 5 funny little short videos, and then we can chat after the credits if you'd like.
All right, sounds good.
I'm impressed you hung in this long, man.
I am too.
Yeah, I think we scare away some people after the first hour.
All right, here's our first funny video of the night. So this is a little comedy sketch thing that that is flooding my feed recently, and so they do these sketches. So this sketch is an election touchscreen guy on the group chat's decision where to go to dinner.
Touchscreen guy on the group chat's decision where to go to dinner.
We're obviously a long ways away from any kind of decision being made tonight. It's already 2 a.m. here on the East Coast at the Decision Center. And let's take a look at some of the front runners here. Okay, coming in at 35%, the ramen place we always go to. That's been staying high, consistently performing well in every precinct. It's got a lot of cross-cultural appeal, but coming coming in close behind, of course, McDonald's. We can't deny the pull of McDonald's. It's doing extremely well in suburban areas. Of course, we do have to factor in that some people just went there 2 days ago. So it's not going to appeal to them as much. Coming in third, I don't know, just pizza. Just pizza has been sticking around at 16%. If we go in here, we zoom in further, we see that breaks down into 4 different pizza options. Put on a pot of coffee because we're going to be here all night. Yeah, Kevin, good, right at you.
This is the show that Haley watches all the time. She's like subscribed to them. They're pretty funny, man.
Dude, they are. The last one of the night is that same show. So
nice, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the Who's
No,
Line
I'm
of
gonna
our
have to
day.
go find this. No, I'm gonna have to go find this show and see if
Is that the same guy from Adam Ruins Everything?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. I think Adam Ruins everything.
No, it's not.
Yeah, he'd be ruining it if
you really want to find.
He'd be ruining it. Oh man!
All right, next one up. Here we go.
My dad was schizophrenic.
Is he not anymore?
No.
Or is he? What is it? Why was he's cured?
Yeah, they cured.
Really?
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Forgive my ignorance. I didn't know you could cure schizophrenia.
Oh well, that's the thing.
treat
The universe, like humans can treat it, but the universe can cure it. God can cure it.
Is that what happened?
Yeah.
Tell me everything.
He died.
I got a rough idea.
That's internet. Time it up.
Dude, I thought that was freaking hilarious.
Another good one.
All right. This is for those of you who are worried about AI taking over our society and robots becoming our overlords, just keep this video in mind for the rest of your life. These are 2 Amazon robots trying to get around each other.
Oh, God.
We're going to mute it because we're going to get a copyright strike.
Yeah, I don't want to listen to that song anyway. So
I actually don't think that song will give you a copyright strike.
yeah, because no one cares.
I mean, they literally do this for like 3 minutes.
Yeah, because they're programmed exactly the same and they're mirroring each other. One just needs to stop.
Like if they could communicate at all, that would have gone down much better.
Think about that next time you're driving with your hands off the wheel, showing us videos in the Tesla, Jake.
I don't have a Tesla.
That's what happens when you have USAID, NGOs, and the CIA operating in the same territory.
There we go. There we go. No, I totaled the Tesla, Nick. I got hit by a car.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's probably for the best.
Probably for the best. All right. For anybody who's played the game Settlers of Catan, this one will hit home for you.
Okay, here we go. Oh my God. I'm a lucky day. This
Something troubling you. Surely there's been a mistake here. What mistakes do your eyes see, please tell us? Well, the burglar appears to be placed on my highest yielding wheat field. I'm afraid no mistake has been made.
But are your people not enjoying bread?
Why are your people not living in stone halls? From the resources that I've given you illustrate my point perfectly. You are engaged in trade. My people no longer have use for your bread. We take land from the north. I'm afraid it's not our allies. But I've had people of the Orange Kingdom trying to make alliance.
We have an alliance!
If you thought that it was an alliance, then you truly are a fool. I'd rather live 1,000 lives as a fool than breathe a single breath as a tyrant.
What? Gosh, got Lunch Road.
Oh, yeah, true. Okay.
I want to see where this was going. That's anticlimactic. Winning that didn't even feel good. I think I'm having a panic attack. I don't want to clean this up.
Yeah, that's about right.
That feels like Catan, yeah.
Yep.
All right. Final video of the night is from I guess it's Make Some Noise is that group or that show. There we go.
Awaited meeting between Times New Roman and Comic Sans.
What mercy do you think you will find in my heart? The fields behind me are littered with the bodies of fonts braver and more cunning than you. Baskerville lies dead in dust. Apple Chancery is nothing but a distant memory. I struck down Helvetica. Do you think your posted, handwritten invitation on an old school blog, come to my birthday party this weekend, I want to insinuate that it's going to be fun? By the time I'm done with you, you're going to look like webdings, my friend.
Don't you mean wingdings?
What?
Nice. I love a good typeface.
I thought Alden would appreciate that more than
Comic
All right, y'all. That'll do it for this episode. I appreciate everybody who stuck around till the end. Subscribe to us on Spotify and Rumble. Those are our favorite platforms. Also, follow us on X because this live streams to there, and we also post from time to time, including March Madness things that are happening for the next 3 weeks. I don't know anybody who's in. Oh, it looks like Nick is now tied for 3rd place, and I've dropped significantly down to 6th place.
Apparently, Drake beat Mizzou, a 6-11 upset.
Did they really? That sucks.
I think it says so.
All right,
Kansas lost.
Kansas lost to Arkansas. Yeah. All right, y'all. That'll do it for this week's episode. Make sure to tune in to the rest of the shows we have on PCC Network coming out over the next few days. We have a good one coming out on Monday, Free Georgia Podcast with Jennifer Williams and Gretchen Brokard of You Are the Power. We have Wrexham Texan coming out on Wednesday and a couple of
Wrexham Texan.
Thank you to Patrick Naughton coming on the show and suffering through our ridiculous.
I'm impressed, man. Yeah.
And
Patrick,
stick around. We'll talk to you. All
right.
All right, y'all. We'll see you next week.
Cheers.
Join the crew.